The seafloor at first glance appears quiet, almost empty, a pale plain broken only by scattered coral rubble and patches of seagrass that sway gently in the slow rhythm of coastal currents. Yet hidden within this landscape is one of the most unusual minds evolution has ever produced. Beneath a ledge of volcanic rock, an octopus waits motionless, its body folded tightly into a crevice, just large enough to conceal its soft form. The animal seems like little more than a shifting shadow against the stone, but inside that compact body exists a nervous system unlike any other in the ocean. Where most animals concentrate intelligence in a single brain, the octopus distributes its thinking throughout its body. Its nervous system contains hundreds of millions of neurons, but the majority of them are not located in the central brain at all. Instead, they are embedded in the 8 muscular arms that surround the animal like living extensions of perception and decision-making. In a very real sense, the octopus does not simply control its arms. Each arm possesses the ability to sense, evaluate, and respond to the environment with remarkable independence, transforming the animal into a decentralized network of intelligence moving across the seafloor. The octopus slowly extends one arm from the safety of its shelter. The movement is deliberate and exploratory rather than hurried. Along the underside of the arm, rows of suction cups probe the surface of the rock like thousands of sensitive fingertips. Each cup contains dense clusters of sensory cells capable of detecting both chemical signals and physical textures. When a suction cup touches the stone, it does not merely feel pressure. It tastes the surface, identifying traces of algae, bacteria, and microscopic organisms. If the rock carries the faint chemical scent of a crab that passed hours earlier, the arm detects it immediately. That information does not travel instantly to the central brain for interpretation. Instead, neural circuits within the arm begin processing the data themselves, determining whether the signal is worth pursuing. If the scent suggests prey, the arm may continue exploring in that direction before the octopus's central brain has fully engaged in the decision. In this way, the octopus behaves less like a single thinker directing 8 limbs, and more like a council of semi-independent explorers constantly feeding discoveries into a central coordinating mind. As the arm moves across the substrate, another arm emerges from the crevice and begins probing the opposite direction. Each limb follows its own investigative path, guided by the chemical whispers of the reef. This decentralized design solves a problem that most animals never face. The octopus body is extremely flexible, lacking any rigid skeleton. Each arm can bend, twist, shorten, or elongate into nearly infinite positions. If the central brain attempted to calculate every possible movement for 8 such limbs simultaneously, the computational demand would be overwhelming. Evolution found a different solution. Instead of one brain issuing commands to passive appendages, the octopus evolved arms that can make many decisions locally. The central brain sets general goals such as searching for prey or escaping danger, while the arms determine the exact mechanics of exploration. The result is a creature capable of fluid, improvisational movement through environments as complex as coral reefs, rocky tide pools, and underwater caves. The animal now glides cautiously from its shelter, spreading its arms across the sea floor like a living net. Its skin begins to change in subtle but astonishing ways. Small pigment sacs, known as chromatophores, expand and contract beneath the skin's surface, altering the color pattern across the body in milliseconds. But coloration alone does not explain the octopus's camouflage. Beneath the chromatophores lies another layer of specialized structures called iridophores and leucophores that manipulate how light reflects from the skin. These layers can produce shimmering blues, greens, and metallic hues that mimic the optical properties of surrounding water and coral. At the same time, bundles of muscles beneath the skin create raised bumps and ridges called papillae, allowing the animal to match the texture of rocks, algae, or sponges. In moments, the octopus transforms from a smooth-bodied animal into a rough, jagged imitation of the reef itself. The control of this camouflage system is itself an extraordinary neurological achievement. Thousands of pigment sacs across the skin are connected directly to the nervous system, allowing rapid adjustments in response to environmental cues. When the octopus moves across sand, The chromatophores arrange themselves into pale speckled patterns. When it climbs onto coral, darker irregular shapes appear across the body. What makes this system even more astonishing is that much of the processing occurs outside the central brain. Neural circuits embedded in the skin help coordinate these changes locally, allowing patterns to spread across the body like ripples of information. The octopus does not consciously calculate every patch of color it produces. Instead, the skin itself participates in interpreting the environment and adjusting accordingly. Recent research has revealed an even stranger aspect of this adaptive surface. Octopus skin appears capable of detecting light directly. Specialized proteins, similar to those found in eyes, exist within skin cells, allowing them to respond to changes in brightness and color. In effect, the skin can sense the visual environment independently of the animal's eyes. This ability may allow the octopus to refine its camouflage, even when parts of its body extend beyond its direct field of vision. An arm reaching behind a rock could adjust its coloration to match the surface it touches, guided by light-sensitive cells in the skin itself. The entire body becomes a distributed sensory system, continuously gathering information from the environment and translating it into camouflage. A shadow passes overhead as a reef fish glides across the water column. Instantly, the octopus freezes. Its skin darkens and roughens, transforming the animal into something that resembles a lump of algae-covered stone. Predators searching visually for movement or recognizable shapes often overlook such disguises. This strategy reflects one of the central truths of octopus survival. Without bones or protective shells, the animal relies on intelligence and deception rather than armor. Camouflage is not merely cosmetic, but a critical defensive system that allows the octopus to remain hidden in ecosystems filled with hungry predators, including sharks, groupers, and moray eels. Once the shadow disappears, the octopus resumes its exploration. One arm suddenly stiffens as its suction cups encounter a small crevice between two rocks. Chemical receptors detect the scent of a crab hidden inside. The arm probes deeper into the opening, bending at angles that would be impossible for any limb containing bones. Inside the narrow cavity, the arm begins a delicate search, guided by tactile and chemical signals. The central brain remains involved, but much of the hunting process unfolds through local decision-making within the arm itself. If the crab attempts to retreat deeper into the hole, the arm adapts instantly, coiling and twisting to block escape routes. Moments later, the octopus lunges forward, extending multiple arms into the crevice and extracting the struggling crab. The capture happens quickly and with surprising coordination. The arms work together like experienced hunters, each responding to the movements of the prey and adjusting their grip accordingly. Once secured, the crab is pulled toward the mouth located at the center of the octopus's body. There, a hard beak, shaped somewhat like that of a parrot, punctures the shell. A specialized saliva containing digestive enzymes begins dissolving soft tissues within the crab's body, allowing the octopus to consume the meal with minimal effort. The hunting success demonstrates another layer of octopus intelligence. Unlike many marine predators that rely primarily on instinctual responses, octopuses show a remarkable capacity for learning and problem-solving. Experiments conducted in marine laboratories have repeatedly demonstrated their ability to navigate complex puzzles. In controlled environments, octopuses have learned to unscrew jars to reach food placed inside. This task requires coordinated manipulation, spatial understanding, and persistence. The animal must grasp the jar lid with multiple arms, rotate it in the correct direction, and maintain steady pressure until the lid releases. Such behavior reveals cognitive flexibility rarely observed in invertebrates. The origins of this intelligence lie deep within evolutionary history. Octopuses belong to a group of mollusks known as cephalopods, which includes squids and cuttlefish. Hundreds of millions of years ago, their ancestors possessed external shells similar to those of modern nautiluses. Over time, certain lineages began reducing or losing those shells entirely, gaining mobility but sacrificing physical protection. Without armor, these animals faced intense predation pressures in ancient oceans dominated by fish and marine reptiles. Survival demanded new strategies. Instead of relying on defensive structures, cephalopods evolved larger nervous systems and increasingly sophisticated behaviors. For the octopus lineage, losing the shell created both vulnerability and opportunity. The absence of rigid support structures allowed the body to become extraordinarily flexible. An octopus can squeeze through openings barely larger than its beak, infiltrating crevices inaccessible to most predators. But such flexibility required an equally adaptable nervous system capable of coordinating a body with nearly limitless movement possibilities. Distributed intelligence within the arms solved this challenge, enabling rapid, decentralized control of complex motions. Over evolutionary time, this system expanded into a powerful problem-solving network, capable of interacting with dynamic environments. The octopus now moves across a patch of sand scattered with unusual objects. Among them lies a pair of empty coconut shells discarded long ago by ocean currents. The octopus pauses, examining the shells with cautious curiosity. One arm lifts a shell slightly, testing its weight and stability. After several moments of exploration, the animal gathers both halves beneath its body and begins carrying them across the sea floor. The movement looks awkward at first, as the octopus walks on several arms while balancing the shells with others. Yet the behavior reveals something extraordinary: the use of tools. When the octopus reaches a new location, it carefully assembles the shells into a protective dome and slips inside. From the outside, the structure resembles a simple piece of debris resting on the sand. Inside, the octopus waits in safety, hidden from passing predators. This behavior demonstrates foresight and planning rarely observed in invertebrates. The octopus transports the shells even when they offer no immediate benefit, anticipating future situations in which shelter may be required. Such actions suggest a level of cognitive processing that extends beyond simple stimulus response patterns. As the tide shifts and currents strengthen, the octopus eventually abandons the shell shelter and resumes its slow journey across the reef. Arms probe constantly, tasting the world one surface at a time. The animal's body remains in constant dialogue with its environment, responding through color, texture, and movement. In this underwater landscape of predators, prey, and shifting light, survival depends on an intricate balance of perception and action. The octopus embodies a remarkable evolutionary experiment. Intelligence evolved here without bones, without social groups, and without the long lifespans that characterize many intelligent vertebrates. Most octopuses live only a few years, yet within that brief time they demonstrate learning abilities, problem-solving skills, and behavioral flexibility that rival far larger animals. Their distributed nervous systems challenge conventional assumptions about how minds must be organized. Instead of a single centralized command center, cognition emerges from cooperation among multiple neural networks spread throughout the body. As the sun lowers toward the horizon above the sea, shadows lengthen across the reef. The octopus slips once more into a narrow crevice, folding its arms into a compact spiral. Its skin fades into the mottled colors of surrounding rock, rendering the animal nearly invisible to the casual observer. Beneath that quiet disguise, hundreds of millions of neurons continue their silent activity. Arms rest, but remain ready to explore. Skin waits to transform at the slightest change in light. The central brain coordinates this complex organism, while allowing each limb its own measure of autonomy. In the silent world beneath the waves, the octopus represents one of evolution's most intriguing solutions to the challenge of intelligence. It is an animal that does not merely think with its brain, but with its entire body, a living network of perception and action that rewrites the rules of how minds can exist in the natural world. Dawn in a tropical lagoon reveals a landscape of quiet tension. The reef is just beginning to awaken, illuminated by narrow shafts of sunlight that filter through the surface and scatter across the coral gardens below. Schools of small fish weave between branching coral towers, while crabs and snails creep slowly across the limestone rubble that forms the reef's foundation. At first glance, the scene appears peaceful, almost delicate, but beneath the calm lies a predator engineered for explosive violence on a scale rarely imagined in such a small creature. Hidden inside a narrow burrow carved into the reef substrate waits a mantis shrimp, an animal no longer than a human hand, yet capable of delivering one of the most powerful strikes in the natural world. From its concealed tunnel entrance, only a pair of stalked eyes protrude, swiveling slowly as they scan the surrounding water with extraordinary precision. The mantis shrimp's body remains motionless while its eyes work independently, rotating in complex arcs that survey both the seafloor and the open water above. Each eye moves with a fluid, almost mechanical grace, capable of tilting, rolling and pivoting without assistance from the other. This independence is not merely visual curiosity, but a critical adaptation. Reef environments are visually chaotic, filled with shifting shadows, darting prey, and predators lurking in the coral labyrinth. The mantis shrimp must monitor multiple threats and opportunities at once. Its eyes therefore function not simply as detectors of light, but as sophisticated instruments capable of analyzing color, polarization, and motion simultaneously. The visual system inside those eyes is among the most complex known in the animal kingdom. Where humans possess 3 types of color-sensitive receptors, the mantis shrimp possesses a remarkable array that can range from roughly a dozen to more than a dozen distinct photoreceptor types depending on the species. This expanded sensory palette allows the animal to detect subtle variations in wavelength that most creatures cannot perceive. Yet color detection represents only part of the visual arsenal. The mantis shrimp also interprets polarized light, an optical property produced when sunlight scatters through water and reflects off surfaces at particular angles. Many marine animals generate polarized signals in their shells or exoskeletons, creating patterns invisible to predators lacking the ability to interpret them. To the mantis shrimp, however, these hidden signals glow with clarity, revealing the presence of prey or rival mantis shrimp in ways that ordinary vision could never achieve. As the morning light intensifies, the mantis shrimp's eyes detect movement along the reef floor. A small crab emerges cautiously from behind a coral head, searching for algae and detritus scattered across the limestone. The crab moves sideways across the sand, unaware that it has entered the hunting territory of one of the reef's most formidable micro-predators. Inside the burrow, the mantis shrimp begins a subtle transformation. Muscles inside its specialized forelimbs tense and lock into position, storing mechanical energy like a compressed spring. These limbs are not typical legs or claws. In species known as smashers, they end in thick calcified clubs capable of delivering extraordinary impacts. The structure resembles a biological hammer designed by millions of years of evolutionary refinement. The mantis shrimp inches forward until its head and upper body extend from the burrow entrance. The crab remains unaware, continuing its slow search across the sand. At this moment, the reef seems almost frozen in time. Water currents carry suspended particles past the coral branches, while distant fish flicker through shafts of sunlight overhead. Then the strike happens so quickly that the human eye would barely perceive it. The mantis shrimp releases the stored tension in its limb, launching the club forward at a velocity that rivals the acceleration of a bullet leaving a firearm. In the underwater world, such speed produces remarkable physical consequences. The club moves so rapidly that it displaces water faster than the liquid can flow back to fill the space behind it. This sudden drop in pressure forms a tiny vacuum bubble in the water, known as a cavitation bubble. For a fraction of a moment, the bubble exists as a hollow pocket created purely by the violent motion of the limb. But nature does not tolerate empty space in liquid environments for long. Almost instantly, the surrounding water collapses back into the cavity, causing the bubble to implode with tremendous force. The crab never sees the mantis shrimp's club itself, but the effects arrive almost simultaneously. The first impact comes from the physical strike of the club against the crab's shell. That blow alone carries immense kinetic energy concentrated into a tiny contact point. Yet the strike is immediately followed by the collapse of the cavitation bubble generated during the swing. When the bubble implodes, it produces a shock wave and a burst of heat that briefly reaches temperatures comparable to those at the surface of the sun. The crab therefore experiences 2 nearly simultaneous impacts: the direct blow from the club and the shock wave from the collapsing bubble. In effect, the mantis shrimp delivers a double strike with a single motion. The crab's shell cracks instantly under the combined forces. Fragments scatter across the sand while the stunned prey tumbles helplessly in the water. Within moments, the mantis shrimp pulls the injured crab into the safety of its burrow. The entire encounter lasts less than the blink of an eye, yet it represents a masterclass in biomechanical engineering. The club itself is composed of specialized layers of mineralized material arranged in patterns that distribute stress throughout the structure. This design prevents the limb from shattering under the immense forces it generates. Engineers studying mantis shrimp have examined these structures closely, hoping to replicate their impact-resistant architecture in advanced materials used for aircraft, body armor, and industrial tools. The physics behind the mantis shrimp's strike are particularly astonishing because they occur within water, a medium far denser than air. Moving quickly through water requires enormous force due to the resistance created by the liquid's viscosity. The mantis shrimp solves this problem by storing energy in a spring-like system of muscles and elastic structures located near the base of the limb. These structures function like a crossbow mechanism. Muscles slowly compress the spring while a locking system holds the limb in place. When the mantis shrimp releases the latch, the stored energy converts instantly into motion, propelling the club forward with incredible acceleration. Because the energy accumulates gradually and releases suddenly, the limb can reach speeds that muscles alone could never achieve. This remarkable strike does not merely crack shells. It also generates acoustic shock waves that ripple through the surrounding water. Nearby animals sense these vibrations through specialized organs that detect pressure changes. Some fish instinctively dart away from the disturbance, recognizing it as the signature of a mantis shrimp attack. The reef environment therefore carries subtle echoes of these strikes, like underwater thunderclaps, signaling moments of microscopic violence hidden among the corals. The mantis shrimp's hunting strategy relies on patience as much as power. After finishing its meal, the predator returns to the burrow entrance and resumes its watchful stillness. Burrows themselves are essential to the mantis shrimp's survival. Many individuals spend much of their lives maintaining and defending these narrow tunnels, which they excavate within coral rubble or sediment layers. The burrow offers protection from predators such as reef fish and octopuses that might otherwise consume the mantis shrimp, despite its formidable weaponry. From this safe vantage point, the mantis shrimp can launch ambush attacks on prey that wander too close to the entrance. Within the reef ecosystem, mantis shrimp occupy a fascinating ecological role. They serve as both predator and prey, regulating populations of crabs, snails, and other hard-shelled organisms that graze upon coral surfaces. By controlling these populations, mantis shrimp indirectly influence the health of the reef itself. Too many grazing invertebrates can erode coral structures, while balanced predation helps maintain the complex architecture that supports countless marine species. The visual world perceived by the mantis shrimp remains difficult for humans to imagine. While our own eyes process colors through 3 broad receptor types, the mantis shrimp's expanded receptor array allows it to distinguish extremely fine spectral differences across the light spectrum. Yet this complexity does not necessarily mean the mantis shrimp sees more colors in the way humans experience them. Instead, its visual system appears optimized for rapid recognition of specific wavelengths and polarization patterns. In the fast-paced environment of the reef, such efficiency allows the mantis shrimp to identify prey, rivals, and potential mates instantly without requiring complex neural processing. Polarized vision adds another dimension to this perception. Many surfaces underwater reflect polarized light, including fish scales, shells, and even the skin of certain animals. Some species use polarized patterns as secret communication signals visible only to those capable of detecting them. Mantis shrimp can interpret both linear and circular polarization, giving them access to visual information hidden from most marine predators. To the mantis shrimp, the reef may appear layered with invisible signals, patterns shimmering across shells and exoskeletons, like coded messages embedded within. Light itself. Occasionally, the mantis shrimp's immense striking power creates unintended consequences beyond the reef ecosystem. In aquariums where these animals are kept in captivity, their strikes have been known to crack the glass walls of tanks. This phenomenon occurs because the mantis shrimp does not recognize the transparent barrier as an obstacle. When the animal strikes prey or rivals near the tank surface, the impact may be delivered directly against the glass. The combined force of the club strike and cavitation bubble shockwave can concentrate enough stress in a small area to fracture weaker aquarium panels. For this reason, aquarists who keep mantis shrimp must use thick, reinforced tanks designed to withstand repeated impacts. Despite their fearsome reputation, mantis shrimp remain vulnerable creatures in the broader oceanic landscape. Larger fish, octopuses, and marine mammals may prey upon them if given the opportunity. Their extraordinary weapon evolved primarily for hunting and territorial defense, rather than for confronting much larger predators. When threatened, mantis shrimp often retreat deep into their burrows, sealing the entrance with rubble or sand until the danger passes. In this sense, their survival strategy reflects a balance between aggression and caution, combining devastating offensive capability with the security of carefully maintained shelter. As the sun climbs higher above the lagoon, the reef becomes increasingly active. Parrotfish scrape algae from coral surfaces, while small damselfish defend their territories with surprising ferocity. The mantis shrimp continues its silent vigil, its eyes scanning the shifting environment with mechanical precision. Each passing shadow, each flicker of motion carries potential meaning. Within the narrow confines of its burrow, the predator waits with a patience refined by millions of years of evolutionary pressure. The mantis shrimp represents a striking example of how physics and biology can converge in unexpected ways. Its club embodies principles of acceleration, cavitation, and material strength that challenge conventional assumptions about the limits of biological performance. In an ecosystem filled with predators and prey of every size, this small crustacean wields a weapon capable of producing shockwaves powerful enough to shatter shells, stun fish, and even fracture human-made glass. Hidden beneath the coral ledges of tropical seas, the mantis shrimp continues its watch. Its eyes rotate independently, its limbs remain coiled with stored energy, and the reef around it hums with life. At any moment, another prey item may wander too close to the burrow entrance. When that happens, the calm surface of the lagoon will conceal another explosion of biological physics, delivered by one of the most astonishing hunters the ocean has ever produced. The shallow coastal waters of the tropical Pacific appear calm in the early morning light. The tide drifts quietly across pale sand flats, scattered with seagrass and fragments of coral skeletons worn smooth by time. Sunlight filters through the surface in soft beams that sway gently with each passing ripple, illuminating a world that feels almost empty at first glance. Small fish hover above the seagrass blades, darting away at the slightest disturbance, while juvenile crabs emerge cautiously from tiny burrows etched into the sediment. Yet within this seemingly peaceful environment moves one of the ocean's most efficient and enigmatic predators, an animal whose method of attack unfolds faster than human perception can easily comprehend. Suspended in the water column, nearly invisible against the shifting light, a box jellyfish glides forward with slow, deliberate pulses of its bell-shaped body. At a distance, the animal appears almost ghost-like. Its body is so transparent that only faint outlines reveal its presence, as though the water itself has briefly gathered into a delicate geometric form. The bell resembles a clear cube with rounded edges, each corner trailing a cluster of long tentacles that drift behind like strands of living thread. This transparency is not simply aesthetic, but a carefully refined survival strategy. In the bright coastal shallows where box jellyfish often hunt, prey species rely heavily on vision to detect approaching threats. By allowing light to pass directly through most of its tissues, the jellyfish eliminates the contrast that would otherwise reveal its outline. Fish swimming through the seagrass meadow may pass within centimeters of the predator without realizing that danger floats quietly beside them. Despite the simplicity suggested by its gelatinous appearance, the box jellyfish is far from a passive drifter carried aimlessly by currents. Unlike many other jellyfish species that rely primarily on ocean flow to transport them, box jellyfish possess the ability to swim with surprising control. Muscles lining the interior of the bell contract rhythmically, forcing water downward in short bursts that propel the animal forward. Each pulse generates a gentle jet of water that pushes the jellyfish through its environment with quiet efficiency. The movement is not particularly fast compared with fish, but it provides a level of directional control that allows the animal to navigate through complex coastal habitats in search of prey. Trailing behind the bell, the tentacles extend outward in graceful arcs that can reach several meters in length, depending on the species. At first glance, they resemble delicate threads, but each one carries a dense arsenal of microscopic weapons embedded within specialized cells called nematocysts. These cells represent one of the most sophisticated venom delivery systems in the natural world. Within every nematocyst lies a tightly coiled microscopic harpoon packed under extreme internal pressure like a spring waiting to be released. The harpoon is connected to a hollow tubule through which venom flows once the mechanism is triggered. As the jellyfish glides above the seagrass meadow, a small fish approaches from the side, drawn perhaps by the shelter offered by the vegetation. The fish moves cautiously, scanning the water for predators. Yet the jellyfish's transparent body reveals almost nothing for the fish to detect. When the fish brushes lightly against one of the drifting tentacles, the encounter activates the nematocysts instantly. Mechanical and chemical sensors on the surface of the cells detect the contact and trigger the firing mechanism. In less time than it takes a nerve impulse to travel through the human body, the microscopic harpoons explode outward from the tentacle surface. The speed of this discharge is extraordinary. The harpoon accelerates from rest to its full extension in an interval measured in microseconds. For the fish, there is no time to react or escape. Hundreds of these tiny projectiles penetrate the skin simultaneously, each injecting a dose of potent venom through its hollow shaft. The venom spreads rapidly through the tissues and bloodstream, attacking critical physiological systems with devastating efficiency. Box jellyfish venom is particularly notorious for its ability to interfere with the electrical signaling that controls heart function. Specialized toxins within the venom disrupt the membranes of heart muscle cells, altering the movement of ions that regulate contraction. In severe exposures, this disruption can cause the heart to lose its coordinated rhythm, leading to rapid cardiovascular collapse. In the small fish now entangled within the tentacles, the effects unfold almost instantly. The fish convulses briefly as its muscles lose control, and within moments it becomes immobilized. The jellyfish senses the captured prey through simple nerve networks distributed throughout its body. Although it lacks a centralized brain, it possesses a surprisingly capable nervous system, arranged in a circular ring at the base of the bell and extending into the tentacles. This network coordinates muscle contractions and sensory responses, allowing the animal to adjust its swimming direction and tentacle position in response to environmental cues. Signals from the tentacles inform the jellyfish that prey has been captured, prompting the bell to pulse more actively as the tentacles begin drawing the immobilized fish toward the body. Unlike many predators that rely on complex brains to process sensory information and plan their actions, the box jellyfish operates through decentralized neural circuits that respond directly to stimuli. The ring-shaped nerve network functions as a coordinating hub, linking sensory inputs from the tentacles and eyes to the muscles controlling the bell. The absence of a centralized brain does not prevent the jellyfish from performing surprisingly sophisticated behaviors. Instead, it demonstrates that coordinated predation can emerge from relatively simple neural architectures when combined with specialized sensory systems and powerful biochemical tools. As the fish is brought closer to the bell, the jellyfish folds portions of its body inward, guiding the prey toward its mouth, located on the underside of the bell. Digestive tissues begin to envelop the immobilized fish, initiating the slow process of breaking down muscle and internal organs. Nutrients released during digestion are absorbed directly through the jellyfish's internal cavity, providing the energy required to fuel its swimming and venom production. In these shallow tropical waters, box jellyfish occupy an unusual ecological niche. Many gelatinous zooplankton drift passively in ocean currents and feed primarily on planktonic organisms too small to see with the naked eye. Box jellyfish, by contrast, are active hunters capable of capturing relatively large prey, such as small fish and crustaceans. Their ability to swim with direction and control allows them to patrol coastal habitats where juvenile fish gather, turning these seemingly tranquil nursery grounds into hunting territories. The jellyfish's hunting strategy depends heavily on stealth. Transparency remains its primary camouflage, but other anatomical features contribute to its effectiveness as a predator. The bell's smooth surface creates minimal disturbance as it moves through the water, reducing the pressure waves that might alert nearby animals. The tentacles themselves are extraordinarily thin relative to their length, minimizing visual contrast against the background of shifting sunlight and suspended particles. For prey species accustomed to scanning the water for solid silhouettes, the tentacles often appear as nothing more than faint distortions in the light. Yet stealth alone would not make the box jellyfish such a formidable predator without the extraordinary potency of its venom delivery system. Each tentacle may carry thousands of nematocysts arranged in dense clusters along its length. When triggered, these cells fire independently, allowing multiple darts to strike simultaneously across the prey's body. The mechanical force generated by the harpoon's discharge is powerful enough to penetrate protective tissues and ensure that the venom reaches its target quickly. In effect, the tentacle functions as a living array of microscopic syringes, each capable of injecting venom with astonishing speed. While the venom's impact on small fish unfolds rapidly, its effects on larger animals reveal the remarkable potency of the toxins involved. In humans who accidentally encounter box jellyfish while swimming in coastal waters, the sting can produce immediate and severe pain, followed by systemic symptoms that affect the cardiovascular and nervous systems. The venom's ability to disrupt heart cell membranes remains a major focus of medical research, as scientists attempt to understand precisely how these toxins interact with cellular structures. Insights gained from this research may eventually contribute to treatments for heart disease or the development of new pharmaceuticals derived from marine venom compounds. Despite the fearsome reputation of box jellyfish among coastal communities, the animal itself remains an integral part of the marine ecosystem. Its predation helps regulate populations of small fish and crustaceans that inhabit shallow tropical waters. At the same time, the jellyfish itself may fall prey to certain specialized predators, including sea turtles and some species of fish that possess resistance to the venom. These interactions illustrate the delicate balance within marine food webs, where even highly venomous organisms remain vulnerable within the broader ecological network. The box jellyfish's sensory capabilities extend beyond simple touch responses in the tentacles. Unlike most other jellyfish, box jellyfish possess complex visual structures called ropalia, located around the margin of the bell. Each ropalium contains several distinct eye types, some capable of forming images. Although the visual resolution remains relatively simple compared with vertebrate eyes, it allows the jellyfish to detect obstacles, navigate toward areas of suitable habitat, and possibly track prey movements within the water column. This combination of visual sensing and decentralized neural control enables the jellyfish to move through environments that would challenge many other gelatinous organisms. As midday approaches, the coastal lagoon grows brighter and more active. Schools of juvenile fish gather in shimmering clusters above the seagrass meadow, while predatory trevally cruise the edges of the reef in search of easy meals. The box jellyfish continues its slow patrol, pulsing steadily through the water as its tentacles drift silently behind. Within this transparent hunter lies a sophisticated biological system built around speed, chemistry, and stealth. The nematocysts remain primed along each tentacle, microscopic harpoons coiled under pressure and waiting for the next accidental brush from an unsuspecting animal. The ring-shaped nervous network coordinates the jellyfish's movements with quiet efficiency, guiding its pulses through subtle shifts in light and water currents. Beneath the shimmering surface of the lagoon, the predator drifts onward, almost invisible to the creatures around it. In this world of shifting currents and hidden dangers, the box jellyfish demonstrates that complexity in nature does not always require bones, brains, or visible strength. Sometimes the most effective predator is one that dissolves into the environment itself, carrying its weapons not in claws or teeth, but in microscopic darts that strike faster than sight. Through millions of years of evolution, this delicate cube of living tissue has perfected one of the fastest venom delivery systems in the ocean, transforming the gentle motion of drifting tentacles into a lethal encounter that unfolds in less than the blink of an eye. The open ocean at high latitude appears vast and empty when viewed from above, a shifting expanse of steel-blue water interrupted only by distant waves and drifting ice. Yet beneath this surface lies a complex world shaped by movement, sound, and strategy. In these cold waters, where nutrient-rich currents feed dense populations of fish, seals, and whales, one predator stands apart, not because of sheer strength alone, but because of an extraordinary ability to think collectively. Moving through the deep channels between islands is a pod of orcas, animals often described as the wolves of the sea. Their black and white bodies slice through the water with quiet efficiency, dorsal fins cutting clean lines across the surface as they travel together in precise formation. What appears at first to be a simple group of animals swimming in the same direction is in fact something far more intricate. A society built around cooperation, memory, and learned hunting strategies passed from one generation to the next. Within the pod, individuals maintain constant acoustic contact. The ocean may seem silent to human ears, but it is alive with sound waves traveling immense distances through water. Orcas rely on a complex system of vocalizations that function both as communication and navigation. Each pod produces a distinctive collection of calls and whistles that act almost like dialects within a larger language. Calves learn these vocal patterns from their mothers and relatives during early development, gradually mastering the specific acoustic identity of their family group. These dialects do more than help individuals recognize one another. They reinforce the social cohesion that allows orcas to operate as coordinated hunting units capable of manipulating prey behavior across entire ecosystems. The pod glides steadily along the continental shelf, scanning the water for signs of life. Beneath the surface, their echolocation system pulses rhythmically into the surrounding sea. Specialized fatty structures within the orca's forehead focus high-frequency sound waves into narrow beams that travel through the water until they strike objects in the environment. The returning echoes carry detailed information about size, shape, density, and movement. Through these echoes, the orca constructs a three-dimensional acoustic map of the ocean around it, detecting prey hidden in darkness or concealed beneath layers of turbulent water. A single echolocation pulse may reveal the outline of a fish dozens of meters away, or distinguish the body of a seal resting quietly on an ice floe. As the pod continues its patrol, a distant shape appears near the edge of a floating ice sheet. A seal rests there, its body curled against the cold surface as it sleeps between feeding excursions. In these polar environments, seals rely heavily on ice for safety. The solid platform provides refuge from many marine predators that cannot easily reach them once they climb out of the water. But for orcas, ice does not always guarantee protection. Over generations, certain pods have developed an extraordinary hunting technique, specifically designed to exploit seals resting on ice. The orcas slow their movement and approach the ice sheet carefully, their dorsal fins disappearing beneath the surface to avoid alerting the seal. Beneath the waterline, they align themselves side by side, forming a coordinated formation that moves as a single unit. The behavior reflects something deeper than instinct alone. Young orcas observe these hunts repeatedly during childhood, learning the precise timing and positioning required for success. Cultural knowledge flows through the pod, transmitted through observation and participation, rather than genetic inheritance. When the moment arrives, the whales accelerate together, their massive bodies generating powerful thrusts as they swim toward the ice edge. Just before reaching the floe, they dive slightly and surge upward beneath the surface, releasing their combined momentum in a carefully synchronized motion. The sudden displacement of water forms a powerful wave that crashes across the ice sheet. The seal, startled by the unexpected surge, struggles to maintain its grip as the water sweeps across the frozen platform. A second wave follows almost immediately as the orcas repeat the maneuver, amplifying the disturbance until the seal loses its footing and slides into the water. The seal's instinct is to dive and escape through the open sea, but the orcas are already positioned to intercept. One whale lunges forward while another blocks the escape route from below. The hunt ends quickly. What might appear to human observers as a dramatic display of brute force is in fact a carefully executed strategy that relies on coordination, memory, and precise timing. The wave-washing technique does not exist in every orca population. Instead, it is practiced primarily by specific pods that inhabit icy polar regions. Other orca groups living in warmer oceans have developed entirely different hunting traditions adapted to their local prey. These cultural differences represent one of the most fascinating aspects of orca biology. Unlike most predators whose hunting behaviors are largely fixed by instinct, orcas display remarkable behavioral diversity across populations. Some pods specialize in hunting fish such as salmon, while others focus on marine mammals including seals, sea lions, and even whales, many times their size. Each group develops unique tactics suited to the prey available in its territory. Over time, these strategies become embedded within the social fabric of the pod, taught through observation and practice as younger whales grow into adulthood. Far from the icy seas of the north, another group of orcas patrols the temperate waters along a rugged coastline. Here, the prey landscape differs dramatically. Instead of seals resting on ice, the region hosts large populations of sharks that cruise through the coastal currents. Among them swims the formidable great white shark, itself an apex predator equipped with powerful jaws and rows of serrated teeth. Yet even such a creature becomes vulnerable when confronted by the intelligence and coordination of orcas. These sharks possess large livers filled with oil-rich compounds that help maintain buoyancy. For an orca, the liver represents a highly nutritious organ packed with energy. In certain regions, researchers have documented orca pods that appear to specialize in hunting sharks specifically for these livers. The strategy begins with careful positioning beneath the shark. Orcas approach quietly from below or behind, using their echolocation to track the shark's movement without revealing their presence. At the critical moment, an orca strikes the shark with a sudden upward force, flipping the predator onto its back. This maneuver triggers a phenomenon known as tonic immobility, a temporary paralysis that occurs when certain animals are inverted. The shark becomes momentarily helpless, unable to coordinate its muscles effectively. In that vulnerable state, the orca can deliver a targeted bite that removes the liver with surgical precision. The remainder of the shark's body often sinks to the seafloor, while the orcas consume the nutrient-rich organ that represents the primary goal of the hunt. Such behavior reveals an extraordinary understanding of prey physiology. The orca does not simply attack the shark randomly, but exploits a specific neurological response that disables the animal quickly. Knowledge of this tactic appears to spread within certain pods, again suggesting cultural transmission rather than instinct alone. Observers studying these hunts have noted that younger whales often remain nearby during the process, watching as experienced adults perform the maneuver. Over time, the next generation learns the same technique, continuing a behavioral tradition shaped by the unique ecological conditions of their region. Echolocation remains central to all these hunting strategies. The orca's acoustic perception allows it to detect prey hidden beneath layers of murky water or concealed within schools of fish. When pursuing fast-moving animals such as dolphins or tuna, the orca can adjust the frequency and intensity of its echolocation pulses to maintain a clear sensory image even during rapid chases. This ability provides a critical advantage in the open ocean, where visibility may change dramatically depending on light conditions, water clarity, and depth. Beyond the mechanics of hunting, the social structure of orcapods plays a vital role in their success as predators. Orcas live in stable family groups led by experienced females that may remain with their offspring for decades. These matriarchs often carry extensive ecological knowledge about migration routes, seasonal prey movements, and safe travel corridors through complex marine landscapes. During periods when prey becomes scarce, the pod relies heavily on this accumulated experience to locate alternative food sources. Such social intelligence extends beyond hunting. Orcas engage in intricate interactions that strengthen bonds within the pod. Individuals frequently swim in close formation, touching one another with fins or bodies as they travel. Calves remain close to their mothers during early development, learning the acoustic dialect and behavioral patterns that define their group identity. These relationships form the foundation of cooperative hunting strategies that require trust, communication, and precise coordination. In some regions, pods have been observed working together to capture prey much larger than any single individual could overpower alone. When targeting baleen whales, for example, orcas may harass the larger animal over extended periods, exhausting it through repeated attacks while preventing escape. The process demands constant communication among pod members as they alternate roles, with some individuals chasing while others block escape routes. Over time, the coordinated effort weakens the prey until the pod can deliver the final blows. The ocean environment itself shapes these interactions in subtle ways. Sound travels through seawater far more efficiently than through air, allowing orca calls to propagate across great distances. At the same time, underwater landscapes such as submarine ridges, kelp forests, and coastal channels create acoustic shadows and reflections that influence how sound behaves. Orcas appear capable of navigating these complex acoustic environments with remarkable precision, adjusting their vocalizations and echolocation patterns depending on depth, terrain, and the presence of prey. As evening approaches, the pod continues its journey through the open water. The whales surface periodically to breathe, exhaling tall plumes of mist before diving once more into the depths below. Beneath the surface, their movements remain fluid and deliberate, guided by a constant exchange of sound signals and subtle body cues. The ocean around them is not simply a physical environment, but a dynamic network of information interpreted through hearing, memory, and social awareness. Within this network, the orca stands as one of the most sophisticated predators the sea has produced. Its strength alone would make it formidable, yet it is the combination of intelligence, culture, and cooperation that truly defines its ecological role. Each pod carries a unique library of hunting knowledge, shaped by the environment it inhabits. From wave-watching seals from ice to extracting nutrient-rich organs from sharks, these whales demonstrate that predation in the ocean can be as much about strategy and learning as it is about raw power. In the fading light of the northern sea, the pod disappears beneath the surface, leaving only ripples where their dorsal fins once cut through the water. Somewhere ahead, another hunting opportunity waits, another lesson passed silently from experienced matriarchs to the next generation. The ocean may appear vast and unpredictable, but for the orca, it is a landscape of remembered routes, shared knowledge, and calculated action. A place where intelligence and cooperation shape the destiny of one of the most strategic predators ever to roam the marine world. The reef at first light appears peaceful, in a way that invites a casual observer to believe nothing dramatic occurs here. Waves roll gently across the surface. Sunlight penetrates the shallow water in wide beams that shimmer across coral ridges, and schools of reef fish move in fluid patterns through the labyrinth of rock and living reef structures. Yet beneath this calm surface lies a landscape defined by constant competition for space, light, and nutrients. Every centimeter of reef surface is contested territory, a mosaic of organisms growing, grazing, building, and dismantling the mineral architecture that supports the entire ecosystem. Among the quietest but most influential inhabitants of this environment sits a creature that appears almost motionless to the untrained eye. Nestled between coral branches and rocky crevices, the sea urchin waits within its defensive fortress of spines, a small sphere of living armor that quietly shapes the fate of entire reefs. From a distance, the sea urchin resembles little more than a dark, bristling orb resting on the seafloor. Its body is covered in hundreds of slender spines that radiate outward like a defensive forest of needles. Each spine is attached to the underlying shell through a ball and socket joint, allowing it to pivot in multiple directions with surprising flexibility. Although the animal lacks the expressive features of vertebrate faces, its defensive posture communicates a clear message to would-be predators. Attempting to bite or swallow a sea urchin requires navigating a barrier of sharp, mobile spikes capable of inflicting painful injuries. Many fish quickly learn to avoid this risk, leaving the urchin free to graze across the reef with relative security. Yet the spines serve a role beyond simple deterrence. They represent a dynamic extension of the animal's skeleton, constantly maintained and repaired through biological processes that allow the sea urchin to recover from damage that might permanently cripple other organisms. If a spine breaks during an encounter with a predator or becomes eroded through mechanical wear, specialized cells within the urchin's body initiate rapid regeneration. New skeletal material forms at the base of the damaged spine, gradually restoring its original length and strength. This regenerative capacity transforms the spines from disposable defenses into renewable weapons that maintain the animal's protective barrier throughout its life. The regenerative ability extends beyond individual spines to the entire skeletal structure of the sea urchin. Beneath the forest of spikes lies a rigid shell known as a test, composed of interlocking plates of calcium carbonate arranged in a precise geometric pattern. This shell functions both as armor and as an anchor point for muscles that control the spines. When sections of the shell are damaged, the animal can deposit new mineral layers to repair cracks or fractures. Such resilience allows sea urchins to survive in environments where storms, shifting sand, and collisions with coral structures constantly threaten their structural integrity. Despite their defensive appearance, sea urchins are not passive occupants of the reef. They are active grazers whose feeding behavior plays a crucial role in maintaining ecological balance. As sunlight fuels the growth of algae across exposed rock surfaces, these plant-like organisms can quickly spread and smother coral colonies if left unchecked. The sea urchin acts as a gardener of the reef, scraping away algae and exposing fresh surfaces where coral larvae can settle and grow. Without this constant grazing pressure, algae would often dominate the reef landscape, reducing the biodiversity that makes coral ecosystems among the most productive environments in the ocean. To perform this task, the sea urchin relies on one of the most remarkable feeding structures in the marine world. Hidden on the underside of its body lies a complex arrangement of calcified plates and muscles known as Aristotle's lantern. This structure functions as a powerful chewing apparatus equipped with multiple sharp teeth arranged in a circular formation around the mouth. Each tooth extends outward like the blade of a tiny chisel, capable of scraping algae from rock surfaces with surprising efficiency. The lantern operates through a system of interlocking skeletal elements that move with coordinated precision. Muscles attached to the plates contract and relax in rhythmic patterns, causing the teeth to protrude and retract as the animal grazes across the reef. As the sea urchin crawls slowly along the substrate, guided by small tube feet that extend between the spines, the lantern scrapes continuously against the surface. Each pass removes thin layers of algae along with small fragments of rock, leaving behind clean mineral surfaces where new coral growth may eventually occur. The strength of these teeth is particularly remarkable. Although the sea urchin's body appears delicate compared with the powerful jaws of fish or marine mammals, the material composition of its teeth grants them exceptional durability. The calcite crystals within the teeth are arranged in intricate microscopic patterns that distribute stress efficiently across the structure. This arrangement allows the teeth to resist cracking even when grinding against hard mineral surfaces. Studies of the material properties have revealed that the teeth possess mechanical characteristics comparable to some engineered metals in their resistance to wear and fracture. Equally fascinating is the way these teeth are maintained throughout the animal's life. As the tips wear down through constant scraping, new material forms at the base of each tooth. Gradually, the tooth grows outward, replacing the worn section with fresh, sharp mineral layers. This continuous regrowth ensures that the lantern always possesses functional cutting surfaces, no matter how much abrasion occurs during feeding. In effect, the sea urchin carries a self-renewing set of tools perfectly suited to its role as a reef grazer. The ecological importance of this feeding behavior becomes clear when observing areas where sea urchin populations decline dramatically. In regions where disease or overfishing of natural predators disrupts the balance, reefs can shift rapidly toward algal dominance. Without the grazing pressure of urchins and herbivorous fish, algae grow unchecked across coral skeletons, blocking sunlight and reducing the ability of coral polyps to capture nutrients. Over time, this transformation alters the entire structure of the ecosystem, affecting fish populations, invertebrates, and the countless organisms that depend on healthy coral formations. The relationship between sea urchins and coral reefs therefore represents a complex balance of destruction and renewal. By scraping algae and even small amounts of limestone from the reef surface, the urchin contributes to erosion at a microscopic scale. Yet this erosion simultaneously clears space for coral growth, allowing the reef to regenerate and expand. In this sense, the sea urchin functions as both sculptor and caretaker of the reef landscape, reshaping its structure through countless small interactions that accumulate over years and decades. As the morning progresses, the reef becomes increasingly active. Schools of surgeonfish graze across the coral slopes, while colorful wrasses search for small invertebrates hiding among the rocks. Amid this movement, the sea urchin continues its slow, methodical journey across the substrate. Its tube feet extend and contract in coordinated waves, pulling the animal forward one small step at a time. These tube feet also play a role in sensing the environment, detecting chemical cues and subtle variations in water movement that reveal the presence of food or potential threats. Occasionally, a curious fish approaches the urchin, investigating the spiny sphere resting on the reef. Most quickly retreat after encountering the barrier of sharp spines. Some species, however, have evolved specialized strategies to feed on sea urchins despite their defenses. Triggerfish, for example, possess powerful jaws capable of flipping the urchin over, exposing the softer underside where the spines offer less protection. Once inverted, the urchin becomes vulnerable to bites that can break through the shell. Such interactions illustrate the ongoing evolutionary contest between predator and prey, where each adaptation invites a counter-adaptation in response. Yet even when spines break during these encounters, the sea urchin's regenerative abilities allow it to recover. Within days or weeks, new spines begin emerging from the damaged areas, gradually restoring the animal's protective armor. This resilience ensures that individual urchins can survive repeated challenges within the harsh environment of the reef. As sunlight intensifies overhead, the reef's intricate architecture becomes fully visible. Coral towers rise from the seabed like underwater cities, their surfaces covered with tiny polyps that extend delicate tentacles into the current. Between these structures move countless organisms whose lives intertwine in complex ecological relationships. Amid this vibrant community, the sea urchin continues its quiet work, scraping algae from rock surfaces and maintaining the balance that allows coral ecosystems to thrive. The creature's outward simplicity hides a remarkable set of biological innovations. Regenerative spines create a living fortress capable of repairing itself after damage. The sophisticated mechanics of Aristotle's lantern provide a feeding system powerful enough to grind rock, yet precise enough to maintain delicate reef surfaces. Constant tooth regrowth ensures that this machinery never loses its effectiveness, even after years of continuous use. Together, these adaptations transform the sea urchin into one of the reef's most influential engineers. In the vast hierarchy of ocean predators and prey, the sea urchin might seem an unlikely figure of importance. It lacks the dramatic speed of hunting fish, the intelligence of marine mammals, or the dazzling camouflage of cephalopods. Yet its role within the reef ecosystem reveals a quieter kind of power. By controlling algae growth and reshaping mineral surfaces, the sea urchin helps determine whether coral reefs flourish or decline. Its presence sustains the delicate balance that allows one of Earth's most diverse ecosystems to endure. As the afternoon tide begins to shift, currents carry fresh nutrients across the reef slopes. The sea urchin pauses briefly between patches of algae, its spines swaying gently with the movement of the water. Around it, the reef continues its endless cycle of growth, competition, and renewal. Within this complex environment, the small armored grazer remains both fortress and gardener, an organism whose quiet persistence shapes the very foundation of the coral world. The coastal waters of the Indo-Pacific often appear deceptively simple from above. A wide stretch of shallow seabed extends beneath warm tropical waves, composed of pale sand interrupted by scattered rocks, broken shells, and patches of seagrass that sway gently in the shifting current. Compared with the dramatic architecture of coral reefs, these sandy flats may seem barren and unremarkable. Yet beneath the surface lies a complex environment where survival depends less on brute strength and more on deception, timing, and the ability to vanish within plain sight. It is here, in this quiet and seemingly open terrain, that one of the ocean's most extraordinary illusionists lives. Moving slowly across the sand is a creature capable of rewriting its own appearance in ways that challenge the boundaries of animal behavior. This is the mimic octopus, a small cephalopod whose body functions as a living stage for an ever-changing cast of disguises. At first glance, the animal appears unremarkable. Its body is slender compared with many other octopus species, with long arms that trail across the seabed like delicate ribbons. Its skin carries a muted palette of browns and creams, blending easily with the surrounding sediment. But the apparent simplicity of its appearance hides a nervous system capable of extraordinary control. Beneath the thin skin lies a network of chromatophores, tiny pigment sacs connected directly to the animal's nervous system. Each chromatophore can expand or contract within fractions of a second, allowing the octopus to shift its coloration and patterns almost instantly. When combined with specialized reflective cells that manipulate light, this system transforms the animal's body into a flexible canvas capable of producing stripes, spots, and flowing gradients of color. The mimic octopus moves carefully across the sandy plain, probing the sediment with the tips of its arms. Small fish hover nearby, occasionally darting toward bits of organic debris carried by the current. For predators, this open landscape presents a difficult challenge. There are few rocks or coral structures behind which to hide, and movement across the sand can easily reveal an animal's presence. Many creatures living in this environment rely on camouflage that allows them to blend with the seabed itself. The mimic octopus certainly possesses this ability, flattening its body against the sand and adopting colors that match the surrounding substrate. Yet camouflage alone does not fully explain the animal's survival strategy. Suddenly a shadow glides overhead. A predatory fish patrols the shallow waters, scanning the sand below for movement that might betray the presence of prey. The mimic octopus responds instantly, but not by hiding in the traditional sense. Instead, its body begins to transform. The arms extend outward in a radial pattern, while the skin develops bold, alternating bands of dark and pale color. The octopus raises its arms and spreads them like the spines of a dangerous fish. Within moments, the small cephalopod resembles an entirely different animal, the venomous lionfish. Lionfish are well known across tropical seas for their elaborate display of venomous spines. Their bodies are adorned with long, delicate rays that fan outward like the feathers of a ceremonial headdress. For most predators, the sight of a lionfish represents a clear warning. The spines carry venom capable of delivering painful stings, making the fish an unappealing meal. By imitating the distinctive shape and coloration of a lionfish, the mimic octopus taps into a powerful psychological deterrent. The approaching predator hesitates, uncertain whether the creature below is truly the venomous fish it appears to be. That moment of hesitation often proves sufficient for the octopus to slip quietly away across the sand. This remarkable form of mimicry requires far more than color change alone. The octopus must alter its posture and movement to match the behavior of the animal it imitates. When performing the lionfish disguise, it raises its arms in a symmetrical arrangement that resembles the fish's extended spines. The body undulates slowly through the water column, imitating the graceful, drifting motion characteristic of lionfish as they patrol coral reefs. The illusion is convincing enough to confuse predators accustomed to recognizing the lionfish's distinctive silhouette. The mimic octopus does not rely on a single disguise. As it continues moving across the seafloor, another potential threat approaches in the form of a larger fish known for preying on smaller invertebrates. This time the octopus adopts a completely different strategy. The arms stretch backward while the body elongates into a narrow shape that glides just above the sand. Dark bands ripple across the skin as the octopus begins a sinuous swimming motion. To an observer, the transformation resembles a sea snake moving through the water. Sea snakes represent some of the most venomous reptiles in the ocean. Their presence commands respect from predators that might otherwise investigate unfamiliar shapes in the water. By mimicking the body shape and swimming style of these dangerous reptiles, the octopus once again leverages the fear associated with another species' defenses. The predator slows its approach, unwilling to risk an encounter with a venomous snake. Meanwhile, the octopus continues its performance, maintaining the illusion long enough to move beyond the predator's immediate range. The ability to imitate multiple species sets the mimic octopus apart from most examples of camouflage in the animal kingdom. Many creatures rely on static patterns that resemble leaves, rocks, or sand. The mimic octopus, by contrast, engages in dynamic impersonation, altering its appearance and behavior to resemble entirely different animals depending on the situation. This strategy requires not only precise control of skin pigmentation, but also sophisticated coordination of posture, movement, and environmental context. At another moment, the octopus flattens its body against the sand and spreads its arms outward in a wide, leaf-like shape. The skin shifts again, producing subtle patterns that resemble the mottled surface of a flatfish resting on the seabed. Flatfish, such as flounders, spend much of their lives lying partially buried in sediment, their flattened bodies blending almost seamlessly with the ocean floor. The mimic octopus replicates this posture so convincingly that passing fish may overlook it entirely. mistaking the disguised cephalopod for a harmless resident of the sandy plain. The secret behind these rapid transformations lies within the remarkable architecture of the octopus nervous system. Unlike most animals, whose limbs operate primarily under centralized control from the brain, octopuses possess a distributed network of neural circuits extending into each arm. This arrangement allows the animal to coordinate complex body movements with extraordinary flexibility. When adopting a particular disguise, the arms can assume precise positions, while the skin simultaneously generates the appropriate pattern of color and texture. The result is a fluid transformation that appears almost theatrical in its complexity. Dynamic skin patterns also play a role in communication and environmental sensing. Beneath the visible pigments lie layers of specialized cells that reflect light in different ways depending on how they're arranged. By adjusting these layers, the octopus can create iridescent flashes or subtle shifts in brightness that alter how its body appears against the background. These adjustments occur in real time, responding to changes in lighting conditions and the movement of nearby animals. Predator deception remains the central purpose of these transformations, but the strategy extends beyond simple avoidance. In some situations, the mimic octopus may use its disguises to approach prey without triggering alarm. Small fish that would normally flee from an approaching octopus might tolerate the presence of what appears to be a harmless flatfish or an unrelated species moving across the sand. By exploiting these assumptions, the octopus can reduce the distance between itself and its target before launching a sudden capture with its arms. The mimicry repertoire appears flexible rather than fixed. Researchers observing these animals in their natural habitats have documented numerous variations in posture and pattern, suggesting that individual octopuses may refine their disguises through experience. Environmental context likely influences which imitation proves most effective at any given moment. In regions where sea snakes are common and widely feared, the snake disguise may produce the strongest deterrent. In other areas, the lionfish impersonation may offer greater protection. The evolutionary pathway that produced such elaborate mimicry likely reflects the unique challenges of life on open sandy seabeds. Unlike coral reefs, where countless crevices provide hiding places, sandy environments offer little structural shelter. Animals living here must either outrun predators, bury themselves beneath the sediment, or develop strategies that prevent predators from recognizing them as prey in the first place. The mimic octopus has chosen the latter approach, transforming its body into a constantly shifting illusion that blurs the boundaries between species. As the afternoon sun brightens the shallow water, the sandy plain becomes a stage of quiet motion. Small gobies dart between burrows while shrimp emerge cautiously from the sediment. The mimic octopus continues its deliberate journey across the seabed, pausing occasionally to investigate patches of disturbed sand where prey may be hiding. Its body remains poised for transformation, capable of shifting from one disguise to another within seconds. In this environment of constant scrutiny, where predators patrol above and prey remain alert to any unusual movement, the mimic octopus thrives not through brute force, but through misdirection. Its survival depends on understanding how other animals perceive the world, exploiting those perceptions with carefully orchestrated illusions. Every movement of its arms, every ripple of color across its skin, contributes to a performance refined by millions of years of evolutionary pressure. The sandy seafloor may seem quiet and unremarkable to human observers drifting above it. Yet within this subtle landscape, the mimic octopus reveals a profound lesson about the diversity of life's strategies. Strength alone does not guarantee survival. Sometimes the most powerful defense is the ability to become something else entirely, to reshape one's identity in the eyes of predators and prey alike. As the tide begins to shift and currents carry new sediments across the seabed, the octopus glides once more into the open sand. Its skin returns to a muted pattern that blends with the surrounding grains. To a passing fish, it appears once again as little more than a ripple of color against the sea floor. The master of disguise has vanished, leaving only the faint impression that the sand itself briefly came alive before settling back into stillness. Along the quiet margins of a tropical reef, where coral structures give way to fields of broken rock and pale sediment, the seafloor appears at first glance almost lifeless. Loose rubble, weathered coral fragments, and patches of algae form a landscape that seems defined by stillness rather than movement. Sunlight filters through the shallow water in shifting ribbons, illuminating irregular shapes that blend into one another with little distinction. For many animals, this environment presents an advantage. Predators searching visually for prey often focus on motion or recognizable outlines, scanning the terrain for anything that disrupts the natural patterns of the reef floor. But in this place of scattered stones and rough textures lives an animal that has turned stillness itself into a weapon. Among the rocks rests a stonefish, a predator so perfectly disguised that even experienced divers often fail to recognize its presence until they are nearly upon it. At first glance, the stonefish resembles nothing more than a lump of coral-encrusted rock. Its body carries an irregular surface covered in wart-like protrusions and patches of mottled color that mimic algae, sponges, and sediment deposits. Shades of brown, gray, and dull green merge across its skin in patterns that replicate the surrounding rubble with astonishing precision. Small bits of debris cling to its body, completing the illusion. Even its eyes sit recessed within the rough surface, positioned so that they break the animal's outline as little as possible. For a fish swimming above the seafloor, the stonefish is indistinguishable from the countless other rocks scattered across the reef. This camouflage is not merely a passive resemblance, but the product of evolutionary refinement shaped by millions of years of predation and survival. Stonefish inhabit shallow coastal waters where predators and prey move constantly through the reef environment. Visibility is often excellent, and animals that fail to blend into their surroundings rarely survive long. The stonefish's body therefore functions as a perfect imitation of the seafloor itself, allowing it to disappear in plain sight. Despite its outward stillness, the stonefish remains intensely alert. Its eyes track subtle movements in the water column above, watching as small fish drift through the reef corridor. Unlike fast-swimming predators that chase prey across open water, the stonefish relies on patience. It waits motionless for extended periods, conserving energy while the environment around it shifts with tides and currents. The strategy reflects a broader pattern within ambush predators across ecosystems. By allowing prey to approach voluntarily rather than pursuing them actively, the predator reduces both energy expenditure and the risk of detection. The seafloor around the stonefish is alive with small creatures. Juvenile wrasses dart between rocks searching for tiny crustaceans. Shrimp emerge briefly from crevices before retreating again at the slightest disturbance. Above them all hover small reef fish, whose curiosity sometimes leads them dangerously close to the hidden predator below. Among these fish swims a young damselfish, attracted by patches of algae growing on the coral rubble. It approaches cautiously, pecking at bits of organic material drifting through the water. From the damselfish's perspective, the rock beneath it presents no obvious threat. The texture matches the surrounding environment perfectly, and there is no visible movement to suggest that the stone is alive. Yet beneath the rough exterior lies a predator equipped with one of the fastest feeding mechanisms in the marine world. As the fish moves closer, the stonefish prepares to strike. The attack unfolds in an instant. The stonefish's mouth opens with explosive speed, creating a powerful suction force that pulls water and prey inward simultaneously. The fish has no time to react. Within fractions of a second, it is drawn into the cavernous mouth of the predator and swallowed whole. The motion is so rapid that the surrounding water barely ripples before the stonefish returns to its motionless posture. This feeding mechanism relies on specialized skeletal structures that allow the stonefish to expand its mouth cavity dramatically during the strike. By rapidly increasing the volume of the oral chamber, the fish generates a sudden pressure drop that pulls nearby water inward. Any small animal caught within the suction zone is swept directly into the predator's mouth. Such ambush feeding strategies are common among certain reef fishes, but the stonefish combines this technique with camouflage so effective that prey rarely perceives danger until it is too late. While the stonefish's feeding behavior reveals its efficiency as a predator, its reputation in marine ecosystems arises primarily from another adaptation entirely. Running along the fish's back is a row of stout dorsal spines, each connected to venom glands embedded within the surrounding tissue. These spines remain partially concealed within the irregular surface of the fish's body, blending seamlessly into the rock-like texture. When the stonefish rests undisturbed, the spines lie angled slightly backward, appearing harmless against the rough exterior. Yet these structures form the core of one of the most potent defensive systems in the ocean. Each spine functions like a hypodermic needle connected to a reservoir of venom. When pressure is applied to the spine, such as when a predator attempts to bite, or when an unsuspecting animal steps on the fish, the spine penetrates the attacker's tissue. The pressure simultaneously compresses the venom glands, forcing the toxin through grooves along the spine and into the wound. The process occurs automatically, requiring no active movement from the stonefish itself. The venom delivered through these spines is among the most powerful known in marine animals. Its chemical composition includes proteins and enzymes capable of disrupting multiple physiological systems simultaneously. The toxins interfere with nerve transmission, damage cellular membranes, and trigger intense inflammatory responses within affected tissues. In smaller animals, such as fish or crustaceans, the venom can produce rapid paralysis and death. In larger animals, the effects vary depending on the amount of venom delivered and the location of the sting. Despite the lethality of the venom, it is important to recognize that the stonefish uses this system primarily for defense rather than predation. The fish does not inject venom when capturing prey during its ambush strike. Instead, the dorsal spines remain a protective barrier against predators that might attempt to swallow or crush the stonefish itself. In environments where larger fish roam the reef searching for meals, this defensive adaptation greatly reduces the likelihood of being eaten. The potency of the venom reflects the intense evolutionary pressures faced by animals living on exposed reef floors. Unlike creatures that hide within crevices or swim continuously through open water, the stonefish spends much of its life resting in plain sight. Its camouflage protects it from visual detection, but the possibility of accidental contact remains high. A predator investigating an unusual rock or a larger animal swimming too close could easily brush against the fish's body. The venomous spines therefore serve as a final line of defense, ensuring that any predator that attempts to attack the stonefish pays a severe price. Beyond the biochemical potency of the venom lies an elegant mechanical design that governs how it is delivered. Each dorsal spine connects to a pair of venom glands located at its base. When the spine penetrates tissue, pressure from the surrounding muscles and skin forces venom upward through narrow channels along the spine's surface. These grooves act as conduits, directing the toxin into the wound created by the spine's tip. The more pressure applied to the spine, the greater the amount of venom expelled. This mechanism ensures that the venom dose corresponds directly to the severity of the contact. The stonefish's defensive strategy becomes particularly significant when considering its interaction with other reef inhabitants. Large predators that might otherwise consume smaller fish quickly learn to avoid the stonefish after encountering its spines. This learned avoidance helps maintain the stonefish's position within the reef ecosystem, allowing it to continue its ambush hunting without constant threat from larger animals. Meanwhile, the fish's role as a predator contributes to the broader balance of reef communities. By capturing small fish and crustaceans, the stonefish helps regulate populations of organisms that might otherwise overgraze algae or compete for limited resources. In this way, the predator participates in the complex web of interactions that sustain coral reef biodiversity. As the day progresses and sunlight reaches its peak above the shallow water, the reef becomes increasingly active. Schools of brightly colored fish weave through coral branches, while sea cucumbers inch slowly across the sediment. Amid this movement, the stonefish remains almost completely still. Algae-covered rocks cast irregular shadows across the seabed, and the fish's body merges perfectly with the surrounding rubble. From the perspective of the reef ecosystem, the stonefish embodies a paradox of nature. It appears inert and lifeless, yet it contains one of the most powerful venom systems known in marine environments. It spends long hours motionless, yet when the moment arrives, it strikes with extraordinary speed and precision. Its survival depends on deception so complete that even experienced observers may overlook it entirely. Occasionally, the stonefish shifts position slightly, adjusting its posture to maintain the illusion of a rock resting naturally on the seabed. Its pectoral fins spread outward beneath the body, stabilizing the fish against currents that might otherwise reveal its presence. Sand grains settle slowly across its skin, further enhancing the camouflage that defines its identity. In the quiet shallows where coral rubble meets open sand, the stonefish continues its patient vigil. The reef pulses with life around it, a constant exchange of energy and movement that unfolds across every level of the ecosystem. Yet within this dynamic world, the stonefish remains the embodiment of stillness and disguise. For countless fish drifting above the seabed, the rocks below appear harmless and familiar. Few suspect that among them lies a predator capable of swallowing prey in a flash and delivering venom powerful enough to deter even the most determined attackers. The stonefish does not chase, stalk, or pursue its victims. Instead, it simply waits, perfectly disguised within the landscape itself. In doing so, it demonstrates one of the most effective survival strategies ever produced by evolution: the ability to become indistinguishable from the world around it, transforming camouflage into both shield and sword within the ever-changing theater of the coral reef. In the cool, nutrient-rich waters along the southern coasts of Australia, sunlight filters through thick forests of kelp that rise from the seabed like underwater trees. The currents here move slowly, weaving their way through long fronds of golden-brown algae that sway in quiet unison. Beneath the canopy, the water feels muted and dreamlike, with drifting particles of plankton catching the light as they pass through shafts of green illumination. Fish move cautiously through the kelp corridors, using the towering plants for shelter from predators that patrol the outer edges of the forest. Within this shifting environment of stems, shadows, and slow motion, one of the most remarkable masters of disguise glides almost invisibly among the leaves. It is not a plant, though it appears almost indistinguishable from one. It is the leafy sea dragon, an animal whose entire body has evolved into a living imitation of the kelp forests it inhabits. At first glance, the creature seems to dissolve into the vegetation around it. Long, leaf-like appendages extend from its slender body, branching outward in delicate shapes that mimic the frayed edges of kelp blades drifting in the current. These structures are not used for swimming or propulsion. They serve almost entirely as visual deception, transforming the sea dragon's outline into something that blends seamlessly with the surrounding plant life. The appendages ripple gently as the water moves through the forest, swaying with the same rhythm as the kelp itself. To a predator scanning the forest for fish silhouettes, the sea dragon becomes nearly impossible to distinguish from the plants among which it hides. The resemblance goes beyond simple shape. The coloration of the sea dragon mirrors the tones of the kelp habitat with remarkable precision. Shades of olive green, pale yellow, and muted brown blend across its body in patterns that echo the algae around it. Even the texture of its skin contributes to the illusion. Small ridges and irregular surfaces scatter light in ways that resemble the natural sheen of kelp leaves. When viewed from a distance, the animal appears less like a fish and more like a drifting fragment of plant material caught in the current. Unlike many camouflage specialists that rely on changing colors to match their surroundings, the leafy sea dragon possesses a more permanent disguise. Its body plan itself has evolved to resemble plant structures, an adaptation shaped by generations of selective pressure within kelp-dominated environments. The appendages extend from the body like elaborate fronds, creating an irregular silhouette that disrupts the typical streamlined outline of a fish. For predators accustomed to identifying prey by shape and movement, the sea dragon's profile offers no familiar cues. Yet the leafy sea dragon is not entirely passive within this environment. Hidden beneath the plant-like decorations lies a fish equipped with the essential anatomy of a predator. Its long, tubular snout ends in a small mouth capable of generating rapid suction. When tiny crustaceans or plankton drift close enough, the sea dragon can draw them inward with surprising speed. This feeding mechanism allows the animal to consume small prey without making large, obvious movements that might betray its presence. The sea dragon's method of locomotion reflects the same emphasis on subtlety and concealment. Unlike fast-swimming fish that propel themselves with powerful tail strokes, the sea dragon relies on nearly invisible fins to move through the water. A small dorsal fin located along its back beats rapidly but with minimal disturbance, providing gentle forward propulsion. Meanwhile, delicate pectoral fins near the head assist with steering and balance. These movements are so subtle that they are often difficult to detect even when observing the animal closely. As the sea dragon glides through the kelp forest, its motion resembles the natural drifting of algae rather than purposeful swimming. Each shift in direction appears guided by the same currents that move the surrounding plants. This slow, deliberate strategy minimizes the chance of attracting attention. In ecosystems where speed and agility dominate many predator-prey interactions, the sea dragon represents a completely different approach to survival. Rather than outrunning predators or confronting them directly, it simply avoids recognition altogether. Predator avoidance remains the central advantage of this remarkable disguise. In the kelp forests where leafy sea dragons live, potential threats include larger fish that patrol the edges of the vegetation in search of smaller prey. These predators rely heavily on vision to identify targets within the complex underwater landscape. The sea dragon's elaborate appendages break up its outline so effectively that even a close inspection may reveal nothing unusual among the swaying kelp blades. Occasionally, a curious fish approaches the sea dragon, drawn perhaps by a subtle movement or the presence of small prey nearby. Yet the closer the observer comes, the more convincing the illusion becomes. The appendages shift naturally with the water flow, and the body maintains the irregular posture of a drifting plant fragment. With no sudden movement or recognizable silhouette to trigger alarm, the predator often loses interest and swims away. This evolutionary solution illustrates an important principle in marine ecosystems. Camouflage does not always depend on hiding within shadows or matching static backgrounds. In environments defined by constant motion, such as kelp forests swaying in ocean currents, effective camouflage may involve replicating the movement patterns of the environment itself. The leafy sea dragon's appendages therefore function not only as visual disguises, but also as dynamic structures that respond to water flow, ensuring that the animal's movements remain consistent with the surrounding plants. While camouflage protects the sea dragon from predators, the species also exhibits a remarkable adaptation in its reproductive behavior. Among most fish species, females produce eggs that are fertilized and then left to develop independently in the environment. In leafy sea dragons, however, the responsibility for carrying the developing eggs falls upon the male. During the breeding season, the female transfers a cluster of bright pink eggs onto a specialized area located beneath the male's tail. This region of the tail contains a spongy patch of tissue rich in blood vessels. Once the eggs are deposited, they adhere securely to this surface, where they remain attached for several weeks as they develop. The male becomes the guardian of the brood, transporting the eggs through the kelp forest while providing oxygen and protection from potential threats. Blood vessels beneath the skin deliver nutrients and oxygen to the eggs, creating conditions that support healthy development. The sight of a male sea dragon carrying dozens of eggs along his tail is one of the most extraordinary images in marine biology. Each egg rests within a small indentation on the tail surface, forming a clustered arrangement that resembles a delicate mosaic. As the embryos grow, the male continues his slow movements through the kelp forest, maintaining the camouflage that protects both himself and his developing offspring. This reproductive strategy offers several advantages within the sea dragon's environment. By carrying the eggs directly, the male ensures that they remain hidden within the same plant-like disguise that protects the adult fish. Eggs left exposed on the seafloor would quickly attract predators eager for a nutritious meal. Attached to the tail of a perfectly camouflaged parent, however, the developing embryos benefit from the same illusion that shields the adult from danger. The process also reflects a broader pattern among the relatives of sea dragons. These animals belong to a group of fishes that includes seahorses and pipefish, many of which exhibit variations of male parental care. In seahorses, for example, males carry eggs within a specialized pouch where they receive oxygen and nutrients until hatching. Leafy sea dragons lack such a pouch, but achieve a similar outcome through the exposed brood patch on the tail. As the eggs approach maturity, subtle changes appear within the translucent shells. Tiny sea dragon embryos become visible, their miniature bodies curled within the protective casing. When the time arrives for hatching, the young dragons emerge from the eggs and drift into the surrounding water. Unlike many marine larvae that enter a planktonic stage before settling into adult habitats, juvenile sea dragons often remain close to the kelp forests where their parents live. The kelp ecosystem itself plays a vital role in supporting the life cycle of these animals. These underwater forests provide shelter not only from predators, but also from strong ocean currents that might otherwise carry small organisms far from suitable habitats. Within the dense vegetation thrive countless species of crustaceans, small fish, and invertebrates that serve as food for sea dragons and other predators. The kelp forest therefore functions as both refuge and feeding ground, creating an environment where specialized animals like the leafy sea dragon can thrive. As the afternoon light shifts across the kelp canopy, shadows ripple along the seafloor in slow, undulating patterns. The sea dragon drifts quietly through the forest, its body indistinguishable from the vegetation surrounding it. Each gentle movement of its fins carries it forward with minimal disturbance, maintaining the illusion that it is nothing more than a fragment of drifting plant life. In a world where many predators rely on speed, aggression, or powerful defenses, the leafy sea dragon demonstrates a completely different evolutionary path. Its survival depends on patience, subtlety, and the extraordinary ability to become part of the landscape itself. Through countless generations, natural selection has shaped its body into a living extension of the kelp forest, a creature whose identity merges with the plants that surround it. Among the swaying fronds of algae and the shifting currents of the Southern Ocean, the leafy sea dragon continues its quiet existence. Its disguise remains nearly perfect, its movements slow and deliberate, its presence revealed only to those who look closely enough to see the animal hidden within the forest of leaves. In this delicate balance between illusion and reality, the sea dragon stands as one of the ocean's most remarkable examples of evolutionary artistry. The tropical ocean stretches outward in an immense blue plain that seems to have no beginning and no end. From the surface it appears almost empty, a moving sheet of light and shadow shaped by wind and currents that travel across entire hemispheres. Beneath that surface, however, invisible highways cross the sea in patterns written by magnetism, temperature gradients, and drifting food webs. For many marine animals, survival depends on the ability to navigate these vast and featureless spaces with remarkable precision. Among the most accomplished navigators in this immense environment is the green sea turtle, an animal whose life unfolds across thousands of kilometers of open ocean, yet always returns to the same narrow stretches of coastline where its story began. Early in the morning, sunlight penetrates the warm shallows surrounding a coral reef lagoon. The water glows with soft turquoise light as small waves roll gently across the reef crest and spill into the calmer interior basin. Here, among patches of seagrass and scattered coral heads, a large green sea turtle moves slowly along the seabed. Its shell carries subtle shades of olive and amber, the scutes forming a pattern that reflects the filtered light of the shallow water. With each deliberate motion of its powerful front flippers, the turtle glides forward through the water column in a smooth, efficient rhythm that seems almost effortless. The green sea turtle's body is shaped for endurance rather than speed. Its broad shell reduces drag while its elongated front flippers function like underwater wings, producing lift as they sweep downward through the water. Unlike fish that rely on rapid tail movements for propulsion, the turtle's swimming resembles the flight of a bird through air. Each stroke generates forward motion that carries the animal several meters before the next movement is required. This efficiency becomes critical during the long migrations that define much of the species' life. For a green sea turtle, the ocean is both a feeding ground and a map that stretches across entire basins. Juveniles often spend their early years drifting within large ocean currents, where floating algae and plankton provide food and shelter. As they mature, many individuals undertake migrations that span thousands of kilometers between feeding areas and nesting beaches. These journeys occur across open water where landmarks are scarce and environmental conditions change constantly. Yet the turtles navigate with astonishing accuracy, returning repeatedly to specific coastlines that may lie far beyond the visible horizon. The secret behind this navigational ability lies in a sensory system that detects one of the most subtle features of the planet itself, the Earth's magnetic field. Invisible lines of magnetism extend across the globe, varying slightly in strength and direction depending on geographic location. Green sea turtles possess specialized receptors within their nervous system that allow them to perceive these variations. By interpreting changes in magnetic intensity and inclination, the turtles can determine their approximate position within the ocean, much like a biological compass and map combined. As the turtle glides through the reef lagoon, it occasionally lifts its head toward the surface to take a breath. Unlike fish, turtles must breathe air, and their lungs are adapted to support long dives between breaths. When the turtle inhales at the surface, oxygen fills large, efficient lungs capable of storing substantial volumes of air. Once submerged again, the turtle's body begins managing this oxygen supply with remarkable efficiency. One of the key adaptations lies within the turtle's ability to regulate its heart rate during dives. As the animal descends and begins swimming along the seabed, its metabolism slows and the heart beats less frequently. This reduction conserves oxygen, allowing the turtle to remain underwater for extended periods. Blood vessels also redirect oxygen toward vital organs such as the brain and heart, while limiting flow to less critical tissues. In resting conditions, green sea turtles may remain submerged for many minutes before needing to surface again. The turtle now reaches a patch of seagrass growing across the sandy floor of the lagoon. Here the water is calm, protected from strong waves by the surrounding coral structures. Seagrass meadows represent one of the most important feeding habitats for green sea turtles, and the animal's name reflects its dietary preference. Unlike many other sea turtles that feed primarily on jellyfish or invertebrates, adult green turtles are largely herbivorous. They graze on seagrass and algae, cropping the vegetation with a sharp beak designed for cutting plant material. The turtle lowers its head toward the meadow and begins feeding. Each bite removes small sections of seagrass blades, leaving behind neatly trimmed patches that resemble carefully tended gardens. This grazing behavior may seem simple, but it plays a crucial ecological role within coastal ecosystems. By cropping seagrass regularly, turtles stimulate new plant growth in a manner similar to grazing animals on land. Fresh shoots emerge from the trimmed blades, increasing the overall productivity of the meadow. This process creates what scientists sometimes describe as an algae farming effect. When turtles graze repeatedly in the same areas, they prevent older seagrass leaves from accumulating excessive algae and epiphytes on their surfaces. These organisms can block sunlight from reaching the plant tissues, reducing photosynthesis and slowing growth. By keeping the vegetation trimmed and healthy, turtles help maintain vibrant seagrass beds that support a wide range of marine life. The benefits extend far beyond the turtles themselves. Seagrass meadows provide shelter and feeding grounds for countless species of fish, crustaceans, and mollusks. Juvenile fish often rely on these habitats during early development, hiding among the blades to avoid predators while feeding on small invertebrates that thrive in the meadow. The presence of grazing turtles therefore influences the entire structure of the ecosystem, shaping the productivity and biodiversity of coastal waters. After feeding for several minutes, the turtle lifts its head and begins swimming slowly toward deeper water. The reef slope descends gradually into a channel where currents bring cooler water from the open ocean. As the turtle moves through this transition zone, its senses remain attuned to the environmental cues that guide its life. Temperature gradients, chemical signals in the water, and subtle variations in magnetic fields all contribute to the navigational information that helps the turtle maintain its course across vast distances. During migration, these sensory abilities become particularly important. Adult green sea turtles often travel between feeding grounds and nesting beaches, separated by entire ocean basins. Females that hatched on a particular stretch of coastline may return to that same beach decades later to lay their own eggs. The precision of these journeys suggests that turtles imprint on the magnetic signature of their birthplace early in life, storing this information within their nervous system as a navigational reference. When the time comes to reproduce, mature females leave their feeding habitats and begin traveling toward the beaches where they were born. The journey may take weeks or months, depending on the distance involved. Along the way, the turtles cross open ocean, where currents shift unpredictably and weather conditions change rapidly. Yet the internal compass continues guiding them toward the correct region of coastline. As evening approaches in the lagoon, the turtle reaches a section of reef where the water becomes deeper and darker. Coral structures rise from the seabed like submerged cliffs, their surfaces alive with polyps that extend delicate feeding tentacles into the current. Fish move through the coral labyrinth in shimmering schools, while cleaner wrasses dart between larger animals in search of parasites to remove. The turtle slows its movement and descends toward a sheltered area beneath an overhanging coral ledge. Here the water remains calm, even when waves pass above the reef crest. The turtle settles onto the sandy floor, folding its flippers slightly beneath the body as it rests. During these quiet periods, the turtle's metabolism slows further, conserving energy and oxygen while the animal remains submerged. Such resting behavior highlights another remarkable aspect of the turtle's physiology. Although reptiles are often associated with warm terrestrial environments, sea turtles have evolved adaptations that allow them to maintain stable body temperatures even in cooler water. Large body size, insulating fat layers, and controlled blood circulation help retain heat generated by muscular activity. This thermoregulatory ability enables green sea turtles to travel through waters that vary widely in temperature during long migrations. As the sun sets beyond the horizon, the reef lagoon begins to dim. Nocturnal species emerge from hiding places while daytime fish retreat into crevices among the coral branches. The turtle remains motionless beneath the ledge, its shell blending with the surrounding rock as darkness settles across the reef. Somewhere far beyond the horizon lies the beach where this turtle began its life. Decades earlier, it emerged from the sand as a hatchling barely larger than a human hand, scrambling toward the sea beneath the cover of night. The journey that followed carried it across immense distances through drifting currents and shifting ecosystems. Yet the memory of that shoreline remains encoded within its senses, waiting for the moment when instinct and magnetic guidance will lead it back once more. In the vast geography of the ocean, where landmarks vanish and horizons stretch endlessly in every direction, the green sea turtle navigates with quiet confidence. Its movements trace invisible pathways across the planet's magnetic landscape, linking distant feeding grounds with ancient nesting beaches. Along the way, it shapes ecosystems through its grazing, maintains seagrass meadows that support countless marine species, and demonstrates a remarkable harmony between biology and the invisible forces that guide life across the oceans. Within the quiet reef lagoon, the turtle rests as night deepens. Above the water, the stars begin to appear, reflecting faintly on the surface of the sea. Beneath that surface, the navigator waits, a creature whose life is guided by currents, memory, and the subtle magnetic signals that weave across the earth itself. The open water just beyond the coral reef appears deceptively calm in the early morning light. Sunbeams descend through the blue like towering columns, illuminating drifting plankton and the occasional flash of silver from small schooling fish that move in tight formations above the reef edge. This region, known as the reef drop-off, marks a transition between two worlds. Behind lies the intricate maze of coral towers and lagoons filled with hiding places and colorful life. Ahead stretches the deeper ocean, vast and open, where survival often depends on speed, perception, and the ability to strike before prey can react. Suspended motionless in this quiet corridor is a predator built for explosive violence. Its long, torpedo-shaped body glimmers faintly in the filtered sunlight, the scales reflecting subtle flashes of blue and silver. The animal appears almost relaxed, hovering with minimal movement in the gentle current. Yet beneath that stillness lies one of the fastest acceleration systems in the marine world. This is the Barracuda, a hunter whose body functions like a living missile. At first glance, the Barracuda's shape seems deceptively simple. Its body is elongated and streamlined, tapering from a pointed snout to a powerful tail that forms the engine of its propulsion. The musculature along its flanks is dense and compact, packed with fast-twitch muscle fibers designed for sudden bursts of speed rather than sustained endurance. Unlike migratory fish that travel great distances through continuous swimming, the Barracuda spends much of its time conserving energy in a suspended state. It drifts quietly in the water column, barely moving its fins while scanning the surrounding space for signs of potential prey. The eyes of the barracuda remain alert even when the rest of its body appears almost still. Positioned near the top of the head, they provide a wide field of vision that allows the predator to observe both the reef below and the open water ahead. Small fish schools pass nearby, their bodies flashing in synchronized patterns as they feed on drifting plankton. To the untrained observer, these fish seem safe in their numbers, moving as a coordinated swarm that confuses many predators. But the barracuda does not chase the entire school. Instead, it waits patiently for a moment when the formation loosens, when one individual drifts slightly away from the group. This waiting strategy reflects an essential principle of barracuda hunting behavior. Rather than pursuing prey across long distances, the barracuda relies on ambush tactics that maximize the effectiveness of its speed. The predator studies the movement of fish schools carefully, positioning itself at an angle where the sunlight glints across its scales in subtle reflections. These reflections play a surprisingly important role in the hunt. The barracuda's scales are coated with crystalline structures that scatter incoming light, producing flashes that resemble the glimmering patterns created by schooling fish themselves. When small fish glance toward the predator, they often perceive only another burst of reflected light within the swarm, rather than the distinct outline of an approaching hunter. This optical confusion reduces the chances that prey will recognize the barracuda as a threat. In the dynamic environment of the reef edge, where countless fish scales already reflect sunlight in unpredictable flashes, the barracuda's reflective armor allows it to blend into the shimmering chaos of the water column. For the prey fish, the predator's body becomes part of the visual noise that surrounds them. A small school of sardine-like fish drifts closer to the reef slope, their bodies turning in tight arcs as they feed. Among them, one fish begins to lag slightly behind the others, distracted perhaps by a patch of plankton drifting near the surface. The barracuda remains still, maintaining its position within the current. The distance between predator and prey narrows until the moment arrives. The strike begins with a sudden contraction of the powerful muscles that run along the barracuda's body. The tail sweeps sharply from side to side, generating an explosive thrust that launches the fish forward with astonishing acceleration. Water erupts around the predator as its body surges through the column like a released arrow. In less time than it takes for a human eye to blink, the barracuda closes the gap between itself and the unsuspecting prey. This burst speed is not sustained for long periods. The barracuda's physiology is optimized for rapid acceleration rather than endurance swimming. During the strike, the fish may reach remarkable speeds over a short distance, but after the initial burst, it quickly returns to slower cruising behavior. This pattern of explosive action followed by quiet waiting allows the predator to conserve energy while remaining ready for the next opportunity. As the barracuda reaches its target, the jaws open wide to reveal one of the most distinctive features of the species, a set of long, dagger-like teeth arranged in rows along both jaws. These teeth are sharply pointed and slightly curved, designed to penetrate flesh and prevent prey from escaping once captured. Unlike the grinding teeth of herbivorous fish or the crushing plates of shell-eating predators, the barracuda's teeth function primarily as cutting and gripping tools. The attack unfolds in a single fluid motion. The predator snaps its jaws shut around the small fish, the teeth piercing through scales and muscle before the prey has time to react. The captured fish is swallowed almost immediately as the barracuda continues gliding forward, the momentum of its strike carrying it several meters beyond the point of impact. Within seconds, the predator returns to its previous state of quiet suspension in the water column, the hunt completed as swiftly as it began. Yet the teeth that make this predation possible face a constant challenge. Each strike subjects them to significant mechanical stress, especially when biting through the scales and bones of struggling fish. Over time, teeth may become damaged or broken. To maintain their effectiveness, barracudas possess the ability to replace teeth throughout their lives. New teeth develop beneath the existing ones, gradually moving into position as older teeth fall out or wear down. This continuous regeneration ensures that the predator always carries a functional set of cutting tools, ready for the next ambush. Such dental regeneration reflects a broader pattern found among many predatory fish species, in environments where feeding success depends on sharp, intact teeth. Natural selection favors mechanisms that allow constant renewal of these structures. The barracuda's jaws therefore function not only as weapons, but also as dynamic systems of replacement and repair, maintaining their lethal efficiency through repeated cycles of growth. Beyond individual strikes, the barracuda's hunting strategy reveals a sophisticated understanding of prey behavior. The predator rarely attacks randomly or without preparation. Instead, it positions itself strategically within areas where fish schools gather, often near reef edges, channels, or zones where currents concentrate plankton. These locations attract large numbers of small fish seeking food, which in turn draw the attention of larger predators like the barracuda. By remaining near these natural feeding corridors, the barracuda maximizes its chances of encountering prey while minimizing the energy required for active searching. The predator's stillness within the water column often leads divers to mistake it for a passive observer rather than an active hunter. Yet this stillness represents a calculated tactic, allowing the barracuda to remain undetected until the precise moment when speed becomes its greatest advantage. Occasionally, multiple barracudas gather within the same region of reef edge, forming loose groups that hover in the water like silent sentinels. These aggregations may appear cooperative, but each fish generally hunts independently. The presence of several predators in one area increases the pressure on fish schools, causing prey to move more erratically and increasing the likelihood that an individual fish will stray from the safety of the group. In this way, even loosely organized gatherings of barracudas can influence the behavior of entire fish populations. The role of the barracuda within reef ecosystems extends beyond its immediate predatory success. By targeting smaller schooling fish, barracudas help regulate populations that might otherwise grow too large and disrupt the balance of reef communities. Predation maintains the dynamic equilibrium between species, ensuring that no single group dominates the ecosystem excessively. As the sun climbs higher above the reef, the water grows brighter, and schools of fish move more actively through the open spaces above the coral formations. The barracuda drifts once again in the quiet corridor near the reef edge, its body aligned with the current. Sunlight glints across its reflective scales in faint flashes that resemble the scattered reflections of the surrounding fish. To the creatures swimming nearby, the predator remains little more than a shifting shimmer in the blue water. Its presence is hidden, not through camouflage in the traditional sense, but through the careful manipulation of light, speed, and patience. The barracuda does not pursue endlessly or waste energy in reckless chases. Instead, it waits, calculating the moment when physics and opportunity converge. Within that moment, the predator transforms from silent observer to living missile, accelerating with explosive force that few animals in the ocean can match. The strike lasts only an instant, but it reflects a lifetime of evolutionary refinement. The streamlined body, the powerful musculature, the reflective scales that confuse prey, and the continuously regenerating teeth all contribute to the effectiveness of this remarkable hunter. In the endless blue corridor between reef and open ocean, the barracuda remains suspended in quiet readiness. The water flows gently past its body, while fish schools shimmer in the distance like drifting clouds of silver. Somewhere among them, another opportunity will arise, another brief misstep by a distracted fish. When that moment comes, the calm water will once again erupt with speed, and the ocean's missile will launch forward with precision, born from millions of years of predatory evolution. Far from the shelter of coral reefs and shallow lagoons, the open ocean expands into a vast three-dimensional wilderness where animals live not against solid ground, but within endless columns of water. In this environment, there are few places to hide, no rocks to crawl beneath, and no vegetation to blend into. Survival depends instead on speed, awareness, and the ability to manipulate the water itself as both highway and shield. Among the most remarkable inhabitants of this midwater realm is the squid, a predator whose entire body has evolved into a machine for rapid acceleration, sensory precision, and complex visual communication. Moving through the dim blue depths just beyond the reach of sunlight, a squid drifts quietly, its torpedo-shaped mantle pulsing with subtle movements that betray neither panic nor urgency. Yet within this calm exterior lies a propulsion system capable of launching the animal through the water with astonishing speed. The squid's body is built around a structure known as the mantle, a muscular sac that encloses the animal's internal organs and forms the engine of its locomotion. Water enters the mantle cavity through openings near the head, filling the chamber as the muscles relax. When the squid contracts the mantle walls, the water is forced out through a narrow funnel located beneath the head. This expelled jet of water produces thrust in the opposite direction, propelling the animal forward through the surrounding sea. The principle resembles the propulsion of a rocket or jet engine, though in the squid it unfolds through purely biological mechanics refined over hundreds of millions of years of evolution. Each pulse of the mantle creates a sudden burst of acceleration that carries the squid several body lengths in an instant. Unlike fish that rely on sweeping tail movements to maintain continuous swimming, the squid's jet propulsion allows it to change direction quickly and unpredictably. By adjusting the angle of the funnel, the animal can direct its jet of water in different directions, producing forward motion, rapid turns, or even backward retreats. This maneuverability proves essential in the open ocean, where predators and prey may approach from any direction in the vast expanse of water. The squid now glides slowly through a region of the ocean where light fades gradually with depth. Above, the sunlit surface creates shimmering patterns that ripple through the water column. Below, the blue grows darker and more uniform as sunlight weakens. In this twilight zone, many animals possess transparent bodies or reflective surfaces designed to minimize their visibility. The squid, however, relies on a different strategy altogether. Beneath its skin lies an intricate network of pigment cells known as chromatophores that allow the animal to alter its coloration and patterns with remarkable speed. Each chromatophore functions as a tiny expandable sac filled with pigment. When the surrounding muscles contract, the sac spreads outward, revealing its color across the skin's surface. When the muscles relax, the pigment retracts and disappears from view. By coordinating thousands of these cells simultaneously, the squid can produce waves of color that sweep across its body in fractions of a second. These patterns may serve multiple purposes. In some situations, they help the squid blend with its environment, reducing contrast between the animal and the surrounding water. In others, they function as communication signals exchanged between individuals during encounters that involve mating, competition, or territorial display. The complexity of these patterns reflects the squid's sophisticated nervous system, which processes visual information and translates it into rapid skin transformations. Observers studying squid behavior have noted that certain patterns appear during hunting sequences, while others emerge during interactions between members of the same species. Although the exact meanings of these displays remain under investigation, the rapid shifts in color suggest a dynamic language expressed directly through the animal's skin. Suddenly, a disturbance ripples through the water ahead. A small fish darts away from a cluster of drifting plankton, sensing movement nearby. The squid's eyes, large and highly sensitive to light, track the fish with remarkable precision. Squid eyes rank among the most advanced visual organs in the invertebrate world, capable of detecting subtle changes in brightness and movement across wide angles of view. In the dim mid-water environment, this visual acuity provides a crucial advantage when locating prey. The squid's hunting posture changes almost imperceptibly. Its body tilts slightly forward, while the fins along the mantle adjust their position to maintain stability. Beneath the head extend 8 shorter arms and 2 longer feeding tentacles that remain coiled in readiness. The arms carry rows of suckers that grip prey once captured, while the longer tentacles function as specialized strike weapons capable of extending rapidly toward distant targets. The fish moves closer, unaware of the predator suspended nearby. In a fraction of a second, the squid launches its attack. The 2 elongated tentacles shoot forward with astonishing speed, propelled by muscular contractions that uncoil them like spring-loaded cables. The tips of these tentacles expand into club-shaped ends, lined with powerful suckers. When they reach the prey, the suckers attach instantly, securing the fish before it has time to escape. This strike happens so quickly that even high-speed cameras struggle to capture its full motion. The tentacles may extend and retract within mere moments, pulling the captured prey toward the waiting arms. Once within reach, the arms fold around the fish, their suckers gripping firmly as the squid brings the prey toward its beak. Hidden at the center of the arms lies a sharp, parrot-like beak, capable of slicing through flesh with ease. Within seconds, the fish becomes the squid's next meal. While many squid species hunt relatively small fish and crustaceans in this manner, the group also includes some of the most mysterious predators in the ocean. Far below the twilight zone, in depths where sunlight never penetrates, lives a creature that has fascinated scientists and sailors for centuries: the giant squid. These enormous cephalopods inhabit the deep ocean where pressure increases dramatically and temperatures remain cold and stable. For most of human history, the giant squid existed primarily as legend, its presence known through occasional carcasses washed ashore or fragments discovered in the stomachs of whales. In those deep waters, the giant squid relies on hunting strategies similar in principle to its smaller relatives, but magnified in scale. Its tentacles extend over great distances relative to its body size, capable of reaching prey swimming several meters away. The clubs at the tips carry large, serrated suckers that grip with tremendous force. When the tentacles strike, the prey is drawn inward toward the powerful arms that hold it securely, while the beak delivers the final bite. Evidence from scars found on the skin of sperm whales suggests that encounters between giant squid and these massive marine mammals sometimes escalate into intense battles. Sperm whales dive deep into the ocean's darkness to hunt squid, using echolocation to detect their presence in the black water. When confronted, a giant squid may attempt to escape using rapid jet propulsion while lashing out with its tentacles. The circular scars left by squid suckers on whale skin provide silent testimony to these confrontations occurring far beyond the reach of human observation. Returning to the mid-water realm where the smaller squid hunts, the predator resumes its quiet drift after consuming its meal. The chromatophores ripple once again across its skin, shifting between subtle tones that blend with the surrounding blue. Yet the squid's defenses extend beyond camouflage and speed. If threatened by a larger predator, the squid possesses a remarkable escape mechanism involving a dark cloud of ink. Within the squid's body lies an ink sac connected to the digestive system. When danger approaches, the animal can expel a concentrated burst of this ink through the same funnel used for jet propulsion. The ink spreads rapidly through the water, forming a dense cloud that obscures the squid's position. In some cases, the expelled ink may also contain mucus that allows it to form shapes resembling the squid's own body. This decoy effect confuses predators that rely on visual cues, giving the squid precious moments to escape in another direction. As the squid releases the ink, it simultaneously engages its jet propulsion system, accelerating away from the disturbance with rapid mantle contractions. The predator that triggered the defense may charge toward the dark cloud, only to find that the squid has already vanished into the surrounding water. Such evasive maneuvers illustrate the squid's reliance on quick decision-making and mechanical efficiency, rather than physical armor. The ocean around the squid continues its quiet rhythm as currents carry nutrients and microscopic organisms through the water column. Small fish gather in loose schools, while other predators patrol the depths below. Within this constantly shifting environment, the squid represents a remarkable convergence of biological engineering. Its jet propulsion system converts muscular energy into powerful bursts of motion, allowing rapid changes in speed and direction. Its chromatophore network transforms the skin into a living display capable of camouflage and communication. Its tentacle strike delivers prey with precision and speed that rival the fastest predators in the sea. Together, these adaptations reveal an animal perfectly suited to life in the open ocean's vast arena. Here, there are few solid structures to hide behind, and encounters between predator and prey often unfold in open water, where reaction time determines survival. The squid's body therefore functions as both engine and weapon, a system designed for sudden action followed by equally rapid retreat. As darkness begins to descend across the ocean surface above, the squid drifts deeper into the twilight waters where faint bioluminescent flashes begin to appear. Tiny organisms glow momentarily as they move, creating brief sparks of light against the surrounding darkness. The squid's eyes remain vigilant, tracking the faint signals of movement that reveal the presence of prey. Within this dim and boundless environment, the jet propulsion predator continues its silent patrol. Each pulse of the mantle carries it forward through the water with quiet efficiency, its tentacles ready to strike again when opportunity appears. In the open ocean, where speed and perception shape every encounter, the squid embodies one of nature's most elegant solutions to the challenge of hunting in a world without boundaries. The coral reef at midday glows beneath a ceiling of brilliant tropical light. Sunbeams penetrate the shallow water in wide columns that illuminate every ridge of coral and every drifting particle suspended in the current. Beneath this radiant surface lies a maze of crevices, tunnels, and coral towers that form one of the most complex ecosystems on the planet. Thousands of species move through this underwater city, each navigating a delicate balance of opportunity and danger. Small fish flicker between coral branches, shrimp clean parasites from the mouths of larger predators, and grazing animals methodically crop algae from the reef's limestone foundation. Within this bustling environment moves a predator that at first appears strangely graceful rather than threatening. Its long body glides between coral heads with fluid precision, the tail flattened like a paddle that sweeps gently through the water. The creature is a sea snake, one of the most specialized reptiles ever to enter the marine world. Unlike the brightly colored reef fish that surround it, the sea snake moves with quiet restraint. Its body curves smoothly through the water, propelled by slow undulations that travel from head to tail in steady waves. The paddle-shaped tail at the end of its body serves as the primary engine of movement, generating thrust with minimal effort. This tail represents one of the most important evolutionary changes that allowed the ancestors of sea snakes to transition from land to ocean. While terrestrial snakes rely on friction against solid surfaces to move forward, sea snakes operate in an environment where water replaces ground as the medium of locomotion. The flattened tail acts like a fin, pushing against the water to generate propulsion, while the rest of the body provides stability and directional control. The transition from land to sea required far more than a modified tail. Sea snakes remain reptiles, meaning they breathe air through lungs rather than extracting oxygen from water like fish. Yet their lives unfold almost entirely beneath the surface, where prey and shelter exist among coral reefs and coastal shallows. To solve this challenge, sea snakes evolved a respiratory system that allows them to remain submerged far longer than most terrestrial reptiles. The lungs extend through much of the body cavity, functioning not only as organs for breathing, but also as buoyancy regulators that help control the animal's position in the water column. Even more remarkable is the ability of sea snakes to absorb oxygen directly through their skin. Although the majority of their oxygen still comes from breathing air at the surface, specialized capillaries within the skin allow a portion of dissolved oxygen from the surrounding water to enter the bloodstream. This adaptation reduces the frequency with which the snake must surface, enabling it to spend extended periods hunting within the reef environment. In calm conditions, a sea snake may remain underwater for considerable lengths of time before returning briefly to the surface to replenish its lungs. As the snake glides across the reef slope, its narrow head probes the spaces between coral branches where small fish hide. The snake's senses remain keenly tuned to the movements of potential prey. Vision plays a role in detecting fish silhouettes, but chemical signals in the water also guide the hunt. Tiny particles released by fish during normal activity drift through the current, providing chemical clues that the snake can detect through specialized sensory structures around its mouth. The sea snake pauses briefly beside a cluster of branching coral. Within the maze of narrow gaps, a small fish darts between hiding places in search of plankton carried by the current. The snake moves closer, its body coiling slightly as it positions itself for the strike. Unlike many fish predators that rely on powerful jaws or rapid suction feeding, sea snakes possess a different weapon entirely. Hidden within their slender heads lies a pair of short fangs connected to venom glands capable of delivering one of the most potent toxins found among reptiles. The venom produced by sea snakes belongs primarily to a class of compounds known as neurotoxins. These molecules target the nervous system of the victim, interfering with the transmission of signals between nerves and muscles. When injected into prey, the toxins quickly disrupt the electrical impulses that control muscle contraction. The affected fish loses its ability to swim or even maintain balance within the water column. Paralysis spreads rapidly through the body, rendering the prey helpless within moments. The snake's attack unfolds with swift precision. Its head darts forward between the coral branches, fangs piercing the fish before it can escape. The strike lasts only a fraction of a second before the snake withdraws slightly, allowing the venom to take effect. Unlike many terrestrial snakes that release prey after biting to avoid injury during the struggle, sea snakes often hold their victims directly, relying on the speed of their venom to subdue the fish quickly. Within seconds, the paralyzed fish drifts helplessly in the water. The snake seizes the prey again and begins swallowing it head first, its flexible jaws stretching to accommodate the meal. Specialized ligaments allow the snake's mouth to open far wider than its head might suggest, enabling it to consume prey nearly equal to its own diameter. As the fish disappears gradually into the snake's throat, powerful muscles along the body contract rhythmically to move the meal toward the stomach. The extraordinary potency of sea snake venom has often captured human attention, particularly because many species possess toxins far stronger than those of most terrestrial snakes. Yet despite this chemical power, sea snakes rarely pose a significant threat to humans. Most species display remarkably calm behavior and prefer to avoid confrontation. Encounters with swimmers or divers typically result in the snake gliding away rather than attempting to bite. This reluctance reflects the ecological role of sea snakes within reef ecosystems. Their venom evolved primarily for capturing small fish and eels, rather than defending against large animals. The amount of venom delivered during a bite may be carefully controlled, and in many cases, sea snakes deliver what researchers describe as dry bites with little or no venom when interacting defensively. For the snake, conserving venom remains important because producing these complex toxins requires significant metabolic resources. As the afternoon sun casts shifting patterns across the reef, the sea snake continues its exploration of the coral labyrinth. Its body moves with quiet elegance, slipping through narrow gaps between coral branches that would confine larger predators. The paddle-shaped tail sweeps slowly from side to side, providing steady propulsion without disturbing the surrounding water. Occasionally, the snake pauses near the surface, lifting its head above the waterline for a quick breath. The lungs fill with air in a single motion before the animal submerges again, disappearing into the reef's intricate architecture. This brief connection with the atmosphere highlights the delicate balance that sea snakes maintain between their reptilian ancestry and their fully aquatic lifestyle. The reef itself provides an ideal hunting ground for these specialized predators. Coral formations create countless hiding places for small fish, while currents bring steady supplies of plankton that support diverse food webs. Within this vibrant ecosystem, the sea snake occupies a niche that few other reptiles have successfully entered. It functions as both predator and regulator, helping maintain balance among fish populations that might otherwise grow unchecked. Yet the sea snake's life remains shaped by the same environmental forces that govern the broader reef community. Changes in water temperature, coral health, and prey availability can influence the distribution of these reptiles across coastal regions. Like many marine animals, sea snakes depend on the stability of coral ecosystems that face increasing pressures from climate change and human activity. As evening approaches, the reef begins its subtle transformation from day to night. Diurnal fish retreat into crevices, while nocturnal hunters prepare to emerge from hiding. The sea snake glides once more through the coral forest, its body casting faint shadows across the limestone structures below. Somewhere within the reef, another small fish will become its next meal, another silent exchange in the ongoing rhythm of predation and survival. Within the vast diversity of ocean life, sea snakes stand as a remarkable example of evolutionary adaptation. Their bodies reveal the story of reptiles that returned to the sea and gradually transformed into specialized marine hunters. The paddle-shaped tail, oxygen-absorbing skin, and potent neurotoxic venom all represent solutions to the challenges of life beneath the waves. Yet despite their lethal chemical arsenal, these animals remain quiet participants in the reef's intricate network of relationships. They glide through coral corridors with measured calm, hunting fish with precision while avoiding unnecessary conflict with larger creatures. Their presence reminds us that power in nature does not always appear in dramatic displays of aggression. Sometimes it resides within the silent efficiency of a predator, perfectly adapted to its environment. In the fading light of the tropical evening, the sea snake disappears once more into the coral shadows. The reef continues its endless dance of movement and survival, and within its twisting passages, the most toxic reptiles on Earth move with graceful restraint. masters of a world where venom, evolution, and ocean currents have shaped a life unlike any other. Beneath the rolling surface of the North Atlantic, where cold currents slide across rocky seabeds and forests of kelp sway in the tidal rhythm, an animal moves slowly through the shadows of stone crevices and submerged ledges. The water here rarely warms beyond the chill of deep ocean currents, and the landscape below resembles a submerged mountain range of boulders, sand channels, and algae-covered rock walls. Within this environment lives a creature whose biology quietly challenges one of the most fundamental assumptions about life itself. While nearly every animal ages through an inevitable process of gradual decline, the lobster follows a different trajectory, one that scientists describe with a phrase that sounds almost fictional: negligible senescence. In essence, this means the animal does not show the typical biological deterioration associated with aging. The lobster emerges cautiously from beneath a rock ledge as the tide begins to shift. Its armored body glows faintly red and brown beneath a coating of algae and sediment that has accumulated across the surface of its shell. Two long antennae extend forward, sweeping the water with slow, deliberate motions as they probe for chemical traces drifting through the current. The antennae function not only as tactile sensors, but also as powerful chemical detectors capable of sensing faint signals from prey, predators, and potential mates. In a world where visibility may be limited by darkness or suspended sediment, these sensory organs allow the lobster to interpret its surroundings through an invisible language of dissolved molecules. Unlike many fast-moving predators of the open ocean, lobsters inhabit a landscape defined by structure rather than speed. Rocky reefs and continental shelves provide the shelter that allows them to avoid predators while ambushing prey that wander too close to their hiding places. The lobster's body appears heavily armored, with thick plates forming a rigid exoskeleton that protects the animal from attack. Yet this shell is not permanent. In fact, the lobster's survival depends on the ability to shed this armor repeatedly throughout its life. Growth in lobsters follows a pattern very different from that of mammals or birds. Their bodies cannot expand gradually because the rigid shell surrounding them does not stretch. Instead, the lobster must periodically molt, a process during which it sheds the old exoskeleton and forms a new, larger one. This transformation begins with subtle physiological changes deep within the animal's tissues. Beneath the old shell, a new, flexible exoskeleton begins to form, soft and folded in preparation for the moment when the lobster abandons its previous armor. As the time for molting approaches, the lobster retreats deeper into its shelter, minimizing exposure to predators that might exploit the vulnerability that follows. The molting process unfolds with dramatic intensity, despite the animal's otherwise deliberate pace of life. A crack forms along the back of the old shell, and through this opening, the lobster slowly pulls its body free, extracting even delicate structures such as antennae and walking legs from the rigid casing that once protected them. For a brief but critical period after molting, the lobster's new shell remains soft and pliable. During this stage, the animal absorbs water into its tissues, expanding the body to fill the newly formed exoskeleton before it begins to harden. The increase in body volume allows the lobster to grow significantly between molts, producing the steady enlargement that characterizes its life cycle. This molting process carries immense risk. Without the protection of a hardened shell, the lobster becomes vulnerable to predators including fish, octopuses, and even other lobsters. Many individuals do not survive this stage of life, falling victim to opportunistic hunters that patrol the reef environment. To reduce this danger, lobsters often remain hidden for extended periods after molting, allowing the new shell to harden gradually through the deposition of minerals such as calcium carbonate. Despite the risks, molting remains essential because it enables one of the most remarkable features of lobster biology: continuous growth. Unlike many animals that stop growing after reaching maturity, lobsters continue increasing in size throughout their lives as long as they remain capable of molting successfully. Each new shell provides slightly more space than the previous one, allowing the body to expand again before the next molting cycle begins. This unusual pattern of growth connects directly to the lobster's extraordinary longevity. In most animals, aging occurs because cellular damage accumulates over time, while the body's ability to repair itself gradually declines. Cells divide repeatedly to replace damaged tissues, but each division shortens protective structures known as telomeres, located at the ends of chromosomes. Eventually, these telomeres become too short to maintain normal cellular function, contributing to the aging process. Lobsters appear to possess a unique solution to this problem. Their cells produce an enzyme known as telomerase, at levels far higher than those found in most animals. Telomerase functions as a molecular repair system that rebuilds the telomeres after each cell division, effectively resetting the biological clock that limits cellular replication in many species. By maintaining the integrity of these chromosome ends, lobsters allow their cells to continue dividing without the gradual degradation that characterizes aging in most organisms. The presence of active telomerase throughout the lobster's life helps explain why these animals display negligible senescence. Rather than weakening with age, many lobsters remain physiologically robust for decades. Their muscles maintain strength, their reproductive capacity persists, and their overall metabolic performance remains stable even as they grow larger year after year. This biological resilience has produced some astonishing longevity records. In the cold waters of the North Atlantic, individual lobsters may live for many decades if they avoid predators, disease, and human harvest. Scientists studying growth patterns in large specimens have estimated ages that extend far beyond what most people associate with crustaceans. The combination of continuous growth, active telomerase, and relatively slow metabolism creates the conditions for extended lifespans that challenge conventional expectations. Yet this remarkable longevity does not grant the lobster true immortality. The molting process that enables continuous growth also imposes increasing physical demands as the animal becomes larger and heavier. Extracting a large body from an old shell requires tremendous muscular effort, and the risk of failure rises as the lobster ages. If the animal becomes unable to complete the molting process successfully, it may perish trapped within the partially shed shell. Additionally, the increasing size of older lobsters may attract predators capable of exploiting weaknesses during molting. Large fish, seals, and octopuses occasionally succeed in capturing lobsters despite their formidable claws and armored bodies. Even within their own species, competition can prove dangerous. Lobsters engage in territorial disputes that involve displays of claw strength and chemical signaling through urine released near the antennae. These confrontations help establish dominance hierarchies that influence access to shelter and mating opportunities. The lobster's claws themselves represent a fascinating example of functional specialization. One claw typically develops into a heavy crusher capable of breaking the shells of clams and mussels, while the other becomes a slender cutter designed for slicing and grasping softer prey. This asymmetry allows the lobster to exploit a wide range of food sources within the reef environment, from slow-moving mollusks buried in sediment to small fish and worms hiding among rocks. As the lobster patrols the seabed in search of food, its antennae continue sweeping the water for chemical signals that reveal the presence of prey. A faint scent of crushed shell drifts across the current, indicating that another predator has recently broken open a clam nearby. The lobster follows the trail cautiously until it reaches the remains of the meal. With careful movements of its claws, it collects fragments of edible tissue left behind by the previous hunter. In this way, the lobster participates not only as predator, but also as scavenger within the ecosystem. Its feeding habits help recycle organic material that might otherwise accumulate on the seabed, contributing to the broader energy flow that sustains marine communities. The rocky reef becomes both hunting ground and refuge, a complex habitat where the lobster's slow persistence proves more valuable than speed. Night begins to settle across the ocean surface above, and the reef enters its nocturnal phase. Many lobsters become more active after sunset, venturing farther from their shelters under the cover of darkness. The cooler nighttime currents carry new scents across the seabed, signaling opportunities for feeding and exploration. Within this shadowed landscape, the lobster continues its quiet existence as one of the ocean's most unusual survivors. Its body holds the secret of negligible senescence, a biological strategy that defies the typical decline associated with aging. Through the continuous action of telomerase and the repeating cycle of molting, The lobster maintains a vitality that allows it to grow larger and persist longer than most animals of comparable size. Yet the lobster's story also reminds us that even extraordinary biological advantages cannot eliminate risk entirely. Molting remains a dangerous transition. Predators patrol the reefs, and environmental changes can alter the delicate balance of the ecosystem. Longevity in nature is never guaranteed. It must be earned repeatedly through survival. As the tide shifts again and currents sweep across the rocky sea floor, the lobster retreats briefly into its shelter beneath the stone ledge where the chapter began. Its antennae continue their patient movements, sensing the endless chemical conversations drifting through the water. In this quiet corner of the ocean, an animal that appears almost prehistoric carries within its cells one of the most fascinating solutions evolution has produced for the challenge of aging. The lobster does not race against time in the way most animals do. Instead, it moves through the decades slowly, molting, growing, and renewing itself within the cold waters of the sea. In the warm shallows of tropical seas, where coral reefs rise like underwater cities and sunlight filters through clear water in shifting columns of gold and blue, a small fish drifts slowly along the reef's outer edge. The environment is crowded with movement. Schools of brightly colored damselfish patrol territories above branching coral. Parrotfish scrape algae from limestone skeletons, releasing clouds of powdered coral into the current. Wrasses weave between crevices, searching for parasites or hidden invertebrates. Amid this constant activity, the pufferfish appears almost indifferent to the urgency that drives most reef animals. Its movements are slow, deliberate, and oddly relaxed, as if it exists in a world where danger carries less weight than it does for its neighbors. This apparent calmness is not the result of ignorance or lack of awareness. The reef is one of the most competitive and dangerous ecosystems on Earth, where predators lurk behind nearly every coral head, and the margin between survival and death may last only a fraction of a second. For most small fish, constant vigilance and explosive speed represent the only reliable defenses. Yet, the pufferfish relies on an entirely different strategy, one built not on agility, but on chemistry. Beneath its modest appearance lies one of the most powerful chemical defense systems in the animal kingdom. The fish glides forward with gentle movements of its fins, exploring the reef floor where small crustaceans and mollusks hide among coral rubble. Its body shape appears rounded and compact, with large eyes positioned high on the head and a beak-like mouth capable of crushing hard shells. Unlike many reef fish that possess delicate jaws designed for catching small plankton or soft-bodied prey, the pufferfish has evolved fused teeth that form a powerful crushing plate. This beak allows the fish to break open clams, crabs, and sea urchins that would defeat the jaws of other predators. As it forages across the reef surface, the pufferfish seems unconcerned by the presence of larger predators patrolling nearby. A group of jacks sweeps through the open water above the reef, their streamlined bodies designed for pursuit. Farther along the coral slope, a moray eel extends its head from a crevice, jaws opening and closing rhythmically as it pumps water across its gills. These hunters represent serious threats to most small fish. Yet the pufferfish continues feeding with patient persistence, pausing occasionally to examine a promising patch of rubble. The reason for this confidence lies within the tissues of its body. The pufferfish carries a chemical compound known as tetrodotoxin, one of the most potent natural poisons known in the marine world. Even small quantities of this toxin can interfere with the electrical signals that control nerve and muscle activity in animals that ingest it. By blocking sodium channels in nerve cells, tetrodotoxin prevents the transmission of impulses that allow muscles to contract. The result is paralysis, a rapid and often fatal shutdown of the nervous system. For predators that attempt to swallow a pufferfish, the consequences can be severe. A single bite may deliver enough toxin to incapacitate the attacker within minutes. Fish that consume puffers often display signs of sudden disorientation, followed by loss of muscular control, leaving them vulnerable in the water column. In some cases, predators die soon after ingesting the toxic prey. Yet an intriguing aspect of this chemical defense is that the pufferfish does not manufacture tetrodotoxin entirely on its own. Instead, The toxin originates from symbiotic bacteria that live within the fish's tissues. These microorganisms produce the compound as part of their own metabolic processes. Over evolutionary time, pufferfish have developed a biological partnership with these bacteria, allowing the toxin to accumulate in organs such as the liver, skin, and ovaries. This relationship between fish and bacteria represents a subtle but powerful example of symbiosis. The bacteria gain a stable habitat within the fish's body where they can thrive in a nutrient-rich environment. In return, the host animal benefits from the chemical defense provided by the toxin. Through this partnership, the pufferfish effectively transforms bacterial chemistry into a weapon against predators. The toxin is not the only defense available to the pufferfish. If threatened directly, the fish can deploy a second line of protection that dramatically alters its physical appearance. When a predator approaches too closely, the pufferfish rapidly gulps water into its highly elastic stomach. Within moments, its body expands into a nearly spherical shape, increasing its apparent size several times beyond its normal form. This inflation mechanism relies on specialized connective tissues that allow the skin to stretch without tearing. The stomach, normally folded within the body cavity, unfolds like an expanding balloon as water rushes inside. Muscles surrounding the digestive tract help control the intake and release of water, allowing the fish to inflate quickly and deflate once the threat has passed. The transformation changes the fish's profile in ways that make it far more difficult for predators to swallow. Many reef hunters rely on engulfing prey whole in a rapid strike. The sudden expansion of the pufferfish's body disrupts this strategy, presenting a large, awkward object that may not fit within the predator's mouth. In some species, small spines embedded within the skin become erect during inflation, further discouraging attackers from attempting a bite. At the same time, the inflation display often exposes warning coloration on the fish's body. Bright patterns or contrasting markings may signal the presence of toxic defenses. These visual cues function as a form of aposematic signaling, a biological advertisement that warns predators of the danger associated with attacking the animal. Predators that have previously encountered pufferfish quickly learn to recognize these signals. In reef ecosystems where encounters between species occur repeatedly, learning plays an important role in shaping predator behavior. Fish that attempt to consume a puffer once and experience the unpleasant effects of tetrodotoxin may avoid similar prey in the future. Over time, this learned avoidance spreads through predator populations, reinforcing the protective value of the puffer's warning display. The phenomenon represents an example of predator learning behavior, a process through which predators modify their hunting strategies based on past experiences. Animals capable of learning quickly gain advantages in complex environments where prey may carry hidden defenses. In the case of the pufferfish, the combination of chemical toxicity and distinctive appearance creates a powerful deterrent that predators remember long after their first encounter. Back on the reef floor, the pufferfish continues its search for food among scattered coral fragments. Its beak-like teeth crunch through the shell of a small crab, revealing the soft tissues inside. This feeding behavior plays a subtle ecological role within reef ecosystems. By consuming hard-shelled invertebrates, puffers help regulate populations of organisms that might otherwise damage coral structures or compete with other reef species. The fish's digestive system appears remarkably tolerant of the toxins it carries. Specialized physiological mechanisms protect the pufferfish from the effects of tetrodotoxin circulating within its own tissues. Although the exact details remain under investigation, researchers believe that structural modifications in the fish's sodium channels prevent the toxin from interfering with its own nerve signals. In effect, the pufferfish has evolved immunity to the chemical weapon it stores. As the afternoon current strengthens, suspended particles drift across the reef like underwater snow. Small planktonic organisms sparkle in the sunlight, while cleaner shrimp emerge from coral shelters to establish stations where larger fish can remove parasites from their skin. The pufferfish pauses near one of these cleaning sites, hovering patiently as a pair of shrimp examines its fins and body surface. This moment illustrates another aspect of reef ecology in which cooperation appears alongside competition. The shrimp gain nourishment by feeding on parasites and dead tissue, while the fish receives grooming that helps maintain its health. Even an animal armed with powerful chemical defenses participates in these delicate ecological exchanges that shape life on coral reefs. In the distance, a larger predator approaches along the reef slope. A grouper emerges from the shadows beneath a coral overhang, its broad mouth capable of swallowing many reef fish in a single strike. The grouper pauses briefly as it notices the pufferfish hovering above the rubble field. For a moment, the two animals observe one another. The pufferfish does not flee. Instead, it maintains its slow, hovering posture, while subtly expanding its body just enough to emphasize its rounded shape. The grouper shifts position slightly, but makes no attempt to attack. Experience may have already taught this predator that some prey carry consequences best avoided. The grouper eventually glides past, continuing its search for more suitable targets among the reef fish that lack such formidable defenses. The pufferfish resumes its quiet feeding, apparently unconcerned by the encounter. Within the intricate tapestry of reef life, the pufferfish represents a remarkable example of chemical warfare as a survival strategy. Instead of relying solely on speed or armor, it carries within its body a partnership with microscopic bacteria capable of producing one of nature's most powerful toxins. Combined with the dramatic inflation display and the ability of predators to learn from past encounters, this defense system allows the fish to navigate one of the ocean's most dangerous environments with surprising confidence. As the sun begins its descent toward the horizon, the reef slowly shifts toward its evening rhythm. Colors deepen, shadows lengthen across coral formations, and nocturnal animals prepare to emerge. The pufferfish drifts toward a sheltered crevice where it will rest as darkness spreads through the water. Within its rounded body resides a chemical arsenal that few predators dare challenge. Yet despite this lethal potential, the fish remains a quiet participant in the broader reef community, feeding, interacting, and contributing to the balance of life that defines this vibrant underwater world. In the complex theater of coral reefs, survival often depends on speed or strength. For the pufferfish, however, the ultimate defense lies in chemistry, a silent partnership between fish and bacteria that transforms a seemingly gentle creature into one of the ocean's most formidable deterrents. Morning light spills across the surface of a coastal sea, turning the water into a shifting mirror of pale gold and blue. Beneath this luminous ceiling, the underwater world wakes gradually as currents begin their daily circulation across reefs, seagrass meadows, and open channels that connect the shallow coast to the deeper ocean beyond. Schools of sardines gather in dense formations, their bodies flashing silver whenever sunlight penetrates the surface. Rays glide across sandy flats in search of buried mollusks, while sea turtles browse slowly through the tall green leaves of seagrass beds. Among this rich and dynamic ecosystem moves a group of animals whose presence often transforms the rhythm of the sea itself. Dolphins arrive not as solitary hunters, but as social thinkers, moving through the water in tight formations that suggest coordination far beyond instinct alone. A small pod approaches from deeper water, their streamlined bodies cutting through the sea with quiet efficiency. Their dorsal fins slice the surface occasionally as they rise to breathe before descending again into the submerged landscape below. Each animal maintains close proximity to the others, adjusting its speed and direction in subtle response to the group's movement. The coordination appears effortless, yet beneath this fluid choreography lies one of the most complex social systems found in the animal kingdom. Dolphins possess brains that are unusually large relative to their body size. When scientists compare the mass of the brain to the mass of the body across animal species, dolphins rank among the highest ratios in the natural world. This measurement, often used as a rough indicator of cognitive capacity, places dolphins close to humans in terms of brain-to-body proportion. However, the significance of dolphin intelligence extends beyond simple measurements. Their brains display extensive folding across the cerebral cortex, increasing the surface area available for processing information. This intricate neural architecture supports behaviors that involve memory, learning, and complex social interactions. As the pod glides through the coastal waters, their senses constantly gather information from the environment. Dolphins rely heavily on echolocation, a biological sonar system that allows them to perceive objects through sound. Specialized structures within the forehead produce rapid clicks that travel through the water as focused beams of acoustic energy. When these sound waves encounter objects such as fish, coral structures, or even other dolphins, echoes return to the animal's lower jaw and inner ear. By interpreting the timing and intensity of these echoes, the dolphin constructs an acoustic image of its surroundings. Through echolocation, the pod identifies a dense cluster of fish moving along the edge of the seagrass meadow. The sardines form a shifting cloud that reacts instantly to the presence of predators. Yet dolphins rarely approach such prey in random pursuit. Instead, they begin to organize their movements in ways that reveal a deeper level of coordination. Several individuals position themselves along the outer edge of the fish school, while others circle from below. The group gradually compresses the fish into a tighter formation, guiding them toward shallower water, where escape becomes more difficult. This coordinated hunting strategy demonstrates a level of cooperation rarely observed among marine predators. Each dolphin appears to understand its role within the group's formation, adjusting position in response to the movements of both prey and companions. The fish attempt to flee, but every path leads toward another dolphin waiting strategically nearby. As the school tightens under pressure, individual dolphins dart forward to seize prey before returning to their positions within the hunting ring. Such collective hunting behaviors highlight the cognitive complexity underlying dolphin societies. Cooperation requires communication, and dolphins possess an extraordinary repertoire of vocal signals that facilitate interaction within the pod. Their underwater conversations consist of whistles, clicks, and pulsed sounds that carry across considerable distances through the ocean's dense medium. Among these signals are distinctive whistles, believed to function as individual signatures. Each dolphin develops a unique pattern of sound early in life, allowing companions to identify one another even when separated by distance or poor visibility. These signature whistles function somewhat like names, enabling dolphins to maintain social bonds within fluid groups that may change composition over time. The acoustic landscape surrounding the pod becomes increasingly animated as the hunt progresses. Rapid clicks signal echolocation pulses directed toward the fish, while bursts of whistles ripple through the water between pod members. Although the full complexity of dolphin communication remains under investigation, studies suggest that these vocalizations convey information about identity, location, and possibly emotional states. Beyond communication and cooperation, dolphins exhibit behaviors that reveal a capacity for innovation rarely seen among wild animals. In certain coastal regions, some dolphins have developed a remarkable technique involving the use of tools. Along sandy seabeds, where small fish hide beneath loose sediment, dolphins sometimes carry marine sponges on the tips of their rostrums while foraging. This behavior may appear simple at first glance, but it represents a sophisticated solution to a specific ecological challenge. When searching for prey hidden beneath the seafloor, dolphins risk injuring their sensitive snouts on sharp rocks or buried shells. By placing a sponge between the rostrum and the seabed, the dolphin creates a protective barrier that allows it to probe deeper into the sediment. As the dolphin sweeps the sponge across the bottom, concealed fish dart upward, revealing themselves to the waiting hunter. The use of sponges in this manner illustrates an example of tool use in the wild, a behavior once believed to be unique to primates and a few other terrestrial animals. Even more intriguing is the cultural transmission associated with this practice. Young dolphins often learn the technique from their mothers, suggesting that knowledge can spread through dolphin populations via social learning rather than genetic inheritance alone. While the pod continues its hunt along the seagrass edge, the surrounding environment reveals the intricate relationships that sustain coastal ecosystems. Seagrass meadows function as nurseries for countless marine species, providing shelter for juvenile fish and invertebrates while stabilizing sediment with their extensive root systems. Dolphins moving through these habitats indirectly influence the distribution of prey species, shaping ecological dynamics through their role as apex predators. The hunt eventually slows as the sardine school disperses, leaving only scattered individuals fleeing across the reef flat. The dolphins regroup, circling one another with playful bursts of speed. A young dolphin accelerates toward the surface and leaps briefly into the air before re-entering the water with a splash that sends ripples across the calm morning sea. This playful behavior reflects another dimension of dolphin intelligence that extends beyond survival alone. Dolphins frequently engage in activities that appear to have no immediate functional purpose, including chasing one another, surfing waves, or manipulating floating objects. Such behavior may strengthen social bonds within the pod, while also providing opportunities for young individuals to practice motor skills essential for hunting and navigation. Observations of dolphin societies reveal additional layers of complexity within their emotional lives. Dolphins maintain long-term relationships with specific companions, forming alliances that persist for years. Mothers invest significant energy in raising calves, nursing them for extended periods while teaching essential survival skills. Calves remain close to their mothers during early life, learning to navigate currents, identify prey, and communicate effectively within the pod. Emotional intelligence emerges in behaviors that suggest empathy and social awareness. Dolphins have been observed assisting injured companions, supporting them near the surface so they can breathe when illness or injury prevents normal swimming. In other instances, dolphins approach stranded individuals or remain nearby when a pod member dies, behaviors that hint at emotional connections difficult to explain purely through instinct. Such social complexity requires sophisticated cognitive processing. The dolphin brain contains specialized structures associated with social perception and emotional regulation. Some neuroscientists propose that these features allow dolphins to interpret subtle cues in the behavior of other individuals, facilitating cooperation and maintaining group cohesion. As midday currents strengthen along the coast, the pod moves toward deeper water, where cooler temperatures create favorable conditions for travel. Dolphins regulate body temperature through a combination of physiological mechanisms, including countercurrent heat exchange within their circulatory systems. This arrangement allows warm blood leaving the body's core to transfer heat to cooler blood returning from the extremities, conserving energy in environments where water rapidly removes heat from exposed tissues. While gliding through the deeper channel, the dolphins maintain steady contact through sound. Occasional whistles ripple through the water as individuals adjust their positions relative to one another. The group remains loosely connected, each member aware of the others through a blend of acoustic signals and echolocation echoes. Within the broader marine ecosystem, dolphins occupy a position that reflects both physical agility and cognitive sophistication. Their hunting strategies influence fish populations, while their movements link coastal habitats with offshore feeding grounds. The intelligence displayed in their communication, tool use, and social relationships suggests that these animals perceive the ocean in ways that extend beyond simple predator-prey interactions. As the afternoon sun climbs higher above the sea, the dolphins rise together to the surface for a synchronized breath before descending again into the clear blue depths. Beneath the shimmering water, their silhouettes merge into a fluid formation that moves with shared intention rather than solitary impulse. In this vast underwater world, intelligence has taken many evolutionary paths. Some animals rely on camouflage, others on venom or speed. Dolphins, however, have followed a different trajectory, one shaped by cooperation, learning, and social awareness. Their presence transforms the ocean not merely through predation, but through interaction, communication, and culture. As the pod disappears into the deeper channel where the reef slopes toward the open sea, the water returns to its quiet rhythm. Yet the impression left by their passage lingers, a reminder that among the countless forms of life beneath the waves, few possess the remarkable combination of cognitive ability and social complexity embodied by the ocean's second intelligence.